Howdy, everybody. Welcome to Marvelous Movie Mondays with Kelsey and Dill, May Madness edition. That's right. That's right. We're doing a bracket today of all the Marvel heroes, all 64 of them, or what we consider the 64 best heroes. Kelsey, how are you?
I'm great, Dill. How are
Great.
you?
I'm great too. Like you said before we started recording, this is the first episode we have in a while where we have nothing prepared going in except for a bracket, and it's nice because we don't have to like take any notes. It's just in the moment. Who do we think deserves to win each matchup, and we're going to talk from the heart rather than talking from the notepad, which is nice.
Yeah, I have no notes. No notes in my notebook
Yeah.
today, so it's
Um,
gonna be interesting.
Well, we do have a few notes on other things, which is the Marvel news, which we do every single week. Before we get into the news, if you are listening on audio, we appreciate you, we love you, but this is one where you might want to switch to video just because there is a visual element to this because our bracket will be displayed on screen with us, but we will try our best to describe the bracket as we go so you audio listeners can pay attention and follow. All right, so Marvel news. I'm going to start off. It's news that's not really Marvel news. It's more just like entertainment news, but it involves three people that are big parts, or at least notable parts in the MCU. And that is the Oscars happened last week. We recorded before the Oscars last week, so we didn't get a chance to react to them.
Mhm.
As you know, there was a big shocking upset for Best Actor. Chadwick Boseman did not win, but Anthony Hopkins gave a great performance, and Anthony Hopkins happens to also be a Marvel actor. He played Odin in Thor. So Anthony Hopkins won an Oscar. Daniel Kaluuya, who was in Black Panther, also won an Oscar for supporting actor for Judas and the Black Messiah. And then Chloe Zhao, who is directing Eternals, won two Oscars, one for Best Picture, one for Best Director, both for Nomadland. And she is the second woman ever to win Best Director. She is the first woman of color to win Best Director. And she is the only person I know to be working on a Best Picture winner while she was simultaneously filming a Marvel movie. So she filmed Eternals while she
Wow.
was filming Nomadland. So she is the talk of the town right now in entertainment news for someone who is relatively unknown to most people. To win not one but two Oscars, let alone the biggest two Oscars of the night, director and picture, and be a person of color and be a woman. Statistically, it doesn't happen normally in the Oscars, and for her to break that mold,
Mm.
it was pretty awesome to see. So, three Marvel people that we are recognizing. Go see Eternals. We'll cover Eternals when it comes out eventually, if it comes out eventually.
Right, in
But it'll be great to see what she.
2026.
It'll be great to see what she brings to that because Nomadland is such like an indie art house.
Mm.
Um, slow burn, slice of life type film, and Eternals is this huge blockbuster. But I have no doubt she'll bring something interesting to it. So, Kelsey, what is your news for the week?
My news is not really news, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about the assembled episode that was released about Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Cool.
I mean, I love how they're doing this series. The coolest part for me is to hear about like the editing and the design team. I feel like this is a great series that gives a shout out to these like unsung heroes of the Marvel universe,
Right.
these editors, these designers, these technicians and engineers, like all these people who make the picture and the show and everything come
Right.
together and really feel whole that we don't really take for granted a lot
Hmm.
as the audience members. So I think my favorite part, I got a good chunk of it done. It is an hour long. It's much longer than the episode on WandaVision. It's longer than any of the actual episodes of the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Right.
And I think my favorite part was learning about how they designed, hearing the set designer talk about Madripoor and how that
Mm,
kind of came together. They
right.
were just standing on this in this alleyway in Atlanta, and the director of the show looked around and was like, "Do you think?" And he was like, "You know what? I think I might be able to make this Madripoor." And so
Yeah.
they just yeah, he had this great there's like he talks about this like wall of monkey skulls that are in the background somewhere. It's like all these little things that
Mm,
make that scene and that world feel so real and so whole that, we don't take a second to like pause and really look at and pay attention to these like little details that these
right.
designers, these creative, brilliant people, take the time to really put together and put all this detail into, and it
Yeah.
blows my mind every
Yeah,
time.
I think it's interesting that like a lot of people, us included, dissect the story and the character
Mhm.
elements and even the performances, but we really don't dive too deep into the actual visual. For WandaVision, we did a little bit because it was a very aesthetic show. But yeah, Falcon and Winter Soldier had some great CGI, great editing, great costumes, all of that. I mean, that suit was the talk of that fifth episode cliffhanger. Was like, what is the suit going to look like? Because we knew it was going to look cool. We knew it was going to be awesome. So yeah,
Exactly.
designers out there, technical people, you guys rock. You guys make the magic happen. You guys
Seriously.
bring it to life. All right, so let's get speaking of life. That wasn't really a good segue, but there are 64 amazing characters in this bracket that we are going to break down. We have seeded them, but we didn't seed them based on how we think they should be seeded. Otherwise, it would kind of give away who we think is probably going to win. If we decided, oh, they're definitely a 1 seed or 2 seed, that's kind of your favorite. So we did it completely random, and it's funny because the 1 seeds we got, one of them makes sense. The other 3 are a little odd choices for 1 seeds, but that's the beauty of this bracket, is that we picked literally out of this hat. And I have all the options right here. And Kelsey watched me do it so we could keep each other honest. And Kelsey knew exactly what 64 names I was putting in the hat and exactly which ones I was pulling out. I even showed her on the screen. So yeah, we got 64 players. Some of these matchups are going to be much harder than others. Kelsey, you did design a little bit of a rubric to kind of outline. We don't have to necessarily go each matchup, go rubric by rubric, but just keep in the back of our minds if we have to discuss it and if we have to make those tough choices. So Kelsey, do you want to share that?
Yeah, I think it's important to mention that we didn't just go off of strength. I feel like a lot of people think that we're going into this and just going to debate who the strongest Avenger is, when that's not what it's going to be, because I feel like we're all, as a fandom, pretty much in agreement that the 3 strongest are probably Carol, Captain Marvel, Thor, and Wanda. Not necessarily maybe Hulk is number 4, number 3. I'm not sure.
Those are the 4. Yeah.
Yeah, but those are the 4 main ones that I feel like everyone talks about when we just go off of pure strength and power. So I just wanted to include other things that we could keep in mind throughout this debate, if you will. So the first one being the actor's performance of the character. How many mistakes does the character make throughout the MCU? I feel like a lot of these characters don't necessarily, they all have their own flaws that they have to overcome as characters, but I feel like some of them have made some pretty fatal mistakes. Star-Lord, I'm looking at you, that we're going to have to, factor in when we're talking about them. And lastly, just their arc as a whole. Has their character grown from start to finish? Does their character even get enough time where we can see a nice flourished arc? Just things to keep in mind. Not really a rubric, but just criteria to pay attention to.
So we're keeping in mind, the performance, their arc, and then what to work against them, the mistakes they make in the MCU. And here's the thing: we before people get in, asking why didn't you include this person or this person, we left off anyone in our villains ranking. So even though Loki is heroic in moments, he was on our villain ranking, so he's not going to be here. We decided they had to appear in at least 1 movie. So Monica Rambeau and Jimmy Woo, while they are more WandaVision stars, they did appear in movies. Monica was in Captain Marvel, Jimmy Woo was in Ant-Man and the Wasp, so they count. People like Joaquin that we just met from Falcon and Winter Soldier, and even John Walker, even though he's not really a hero, Isaiah, they will not count because they were not in any of the movies. And we decided 64 teams. I think that's about it, right? Before we head into it?
Yeah. I think we covered it all.
Yeah, it'll act like a normal bracket. There are 4 quadrants. I'll just say upper left, bottom left. We'll go quarter by quarter in the first round, then we'll go quarter by quarter in the second round, and we'll go until we have the final 4, 2, 1. But before we begin, I just want to take a prediction, because this is going to be a crazy bracket. Some of these matchups are really tough, but I'm going to take a prediction, and I want Kelsey to do the same. I want to write down who I think is going to be the winner. And I'm going to take who I think is going to be the winner. I'm going to write it down, and if we are right, we'll come up with some prize. But I will write down now who I think is going to win. That is my prediction.
I have my prediction as well.
All right, I'm going to fold it so no one can see it, so no one knows. And I'm going to put it right so everyone can see it the whole time.
Okay. I guess I'll do this
right behind Mickey Mouse. He's right behind Mickey Mouse.
So I haven't. All right, I'll put mine by Groot. So cool. We haven't tampered with our predictions.
Right. Cool. So, and it'll just be fun. Oh, also tiebreakers. So what's going to happen is if we can't make up our mind together, we will go to Siri, and Siri will break the tie. And basically how Siri will break the tie: heads is the higher seed, tails is the lower seed. So if she says heads, the higher seed goes through; tails, the lower seed goes through. keep it simple as that, because we can't really call it in the air because it's a phone, not a coin. All right,
Right.
so
Of course.
let's get to the beginning of our Marvel bracket. I'm so excited for this. This is the top left quadrant, and here you'll see these are the first 8 seeds of the top left, and then we'll go to the bottom 8 in the top left. But the top left, our 1 seed happened to be what is it again, Kelsey? How do you pronounce it?
Frigga.
Frigga. Yeah, I'm gonna let Kelsey take care of pronunciations since it's been a while since we've seen some of these characters in the MCU. We did see Frigga though in Avengers Endgame, and then she's going up against the 16 seed Peggy Carter, famously from Captain America: First Avenger. She's been seen elsewhere. She's had her own show. We are only taking movies into account, and then the 2 WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier. So we're not counting like Agents of Shield because I haven't seen it. So Kelsey, this first matchup, what are your thoughts?
I mean, right off the bat, like they're very 2 strong women. You know, I know we're probably both thinking the same thing.
I think we are, yeah.
It's definitely got to be Peggy, obviously.
Yeah.
But I would just like to say to Frigga's credit that a lot of what her interaction with Thor, especially in Endgame, is does a lot for his character and that whole conversation that they have. I just watched Endgame recently, so this is like right at the forefront of my mind right now.
Definitely.
I mean, I know she's definitely losing it, and I'm not upset that she's losing it, but I would just like to say that she has had her moments in the MCU that have been pretty good. So
yeah, I will say only once in the history of March Madness has a 16 seed ever been a 1, but I could see it happening maybe 3 times here. So we're going to advance Peggy Carter, but of course Frigga is a monumental character, especially for Thor's story. I think, again, like you said, Endgame came so late that when we finally get a little bit more from Frigga, it's a little bit too late for me. Like Endgame is really my favorite parts of hers, but she is Endgame came so late, whereas Peggy from the start has just been capturing our hearts. What's up, guys?
Well, I was just gonna say, it just sucks that both of these characters, I feel like, are kind of there to just serve the man's storyline, because I was even thinking, like, yes, she played an important part for Thor later on in Endgame, but really her death was like really hard on Loki as well. Like she was a monumental character in his life as well, and it just sucks that we didn't get to see more of just like her arc. The fact that she just drops on us in Endgame like, oh, I was raised by witches, boy. It's like, I wanted to see more of that. Give me that witch, not that chaos magic, if you will. But yeah, it's definitely Peggy.
All right, so moving on to this 8-9 matchup. So the way it works, 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15, and we kind of go down. So the 8 and 9 are probably the most evenly matched, at least in normal bracket standards. This is all random, so who knows? 8 is the Ancient One from Doctor Strange, played by Tilda Swinton. 9 is Phil Coulson, another person who I think really was a key figure in at least phase 1 of the MCU, and then again in Captain Marvel. I'll share my thoughts first. I think Ancient One is definitely the most powerful, but I think Phil Coulson's death in Avengers is just so important. It's kind of like what we said with like Frigga and even Peggy Carter. Like he serves the Avengers really well, and he's kind of the one who almost propels Nick Fury's storyline forward as well. I love the Ancient One as an aesthetic and like as a like cool, mysterious figure in the MCU. I think she's more unique, so I'm leaning toward her, but I do think Coulson is important, and I love him in Captain Marvel too. Kelsey, what are your thoughts?
I mean, right off the bat, it's like these are another 2 characters that had to die for the main character or characters to kind of succeed. Phil Coulson is the whole reason why they become the Avengers. The Ancient One's death is the last kind of like capstone of shaping Doctor Strange into becoming, the next Sorcerer Supreme. But as much as I love Phil Coulson, what I hate about his death, and it's not his fault, I feel like Nick Fury was strangely like super psyched that he died. Like, because he does the whole thing with the Captain America cards where he like had to go to Phil and like rub some of his blood on it or take some of his blood from Phil's decaying body and throw them on the table. And he even says to like Maria Hill, like they needed something to avenge. Like he's almost a little psyched that Phil died. So
Yeah.
that really like upsets me about his whole death.
But
And
that's
as
not
much as
necessarily on Phil, though. That's
no,
on
it's not his
Nick.
fault at all. I just wanted to say that just
Right.
because I just needed to get that off my chest.
So are
But
we advancing an Ancient One, or are we going to a coin flip, Kels?
I as much as I love Phil, he's so sweet and like he's a good agent. I almost want to give it to the Ancient One just cuz
All
she's
right.
such a badass and she's
Yeah.
like no other up until, 2016 when Doctor Strange come out, we hadn't really seen a female like warrior who just fought and had ideals like she did, and it was just
Mm-hmm.
so refreshing. And Tilda Swinton is just she's an icon. So
Yeah. All right. So the next matchup, this one was we need a 64th in the bracket, and we figured he is in every single movie up to a point. Let's put him in there. Stan Lee is our 5 seed. Actually, I made a typo here. Wong should be the 12 seed because 5 versus 12. Wong is a 12 seed. Doctor Strange, right hand man. This is hard because Stan Lee. It's like he's kind of like our joke in the bracket, but at the same time, it's Stan Lee. Like he's the foundation of the MCU fandom. Not necessarily the movies themselves. I don't think he really has an impact on the films itself. I think Wong has more of an impact. But then again, Wong, I felt like they didn't use him at all in Infinity War or Endgame. They used him, but they didn't let him be kind of the spotlight. Like he's the reason why all those portals open up. It's him and Doctor Strange. But again, Wong, the "you wanted more" is a big line, but it's like it doesn't become abundantly clear that he's the one doing it when he is. I think he just deserves more credit in general. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Wong. This is tough for me though. I want to hear your thoughts, Kels, because I have no idea.
I don't know. This is tough. These are two people that are very beloved because they are like almost like the comic relief kind of like characters. They're just so like warm and fuzzy and to act as like a moral compass. I mean, I'm talking about Stanley as if he's a character. He's like not he's the guy. This is tough because, love him. There wouldn't be Marvel without him. I'm almost afraid to advance him, though. I'm almost afraid to advance Stan because the more we get closer to like some other really, really beloved characters, like I don't want to watch him lose to someone else.
Here's the thing. I think he is someone that I wanted to put in the bracket just to acknowledge like he is a big part of it. But I do think it was one of those like let's put in Stanley just for the fun of it. I don't necessarily think he'll be a serious contender later on. Whereas I think Wong really is underrated and slept on. So I'm gonna advance Wong. I love Stanley, but I think he would even understand. This is a Marvel Heroes bracket. Stanley is there just as like this guy who's in all the cameos. But again, like you said, it's not Stanley the person. We got to judge Stanley based on the actual characters he is in the Marvel universe. So I'm gonna say Wong. What about you?
I agree with you. I think we should go with
so
Wong.
Wong is advancing the 12 seed, but we love you, Stanley. The next matchup is cool too. Number 4 is Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow. Some of the name got cut off there. Font was not a thing on this app. And then Heimdall, 13. Yeah, I was right. Idris Elba, number 13 seed. This is interesting because I think Heimdall has the power here, but Natasha's just so iconic and so memorable and so important in the legacy of the MCU. I think this is a pretty easy decision, but what are you thinking, Kels?
I mean, pretty much like we did with Frigga and Peggy Carter. I think I gotta give it to Nat. For obvious reasons, but I'd just like to say Heimdall, he was a ride or die right to the end for Thor. He really brought Hulk back to Earth in Infinity War, and he knew the cost of it. Like we have to give him a little credit for that. So shout out to Heimdall for really being a bro.
So far, according to these seeds, we've had 2 upsets so far, Peggy Carter and Wong. So we're going to move down now to the bottom half of this quarter, which is there we go. So we have now our 6 seed Jimmy Woo. Became a huge star from WandaVision, but he was in Ant-Man and the Wasp. We are going to judge his whole arc, WandaVision included, with Eric Selvig, a number 11 seed, who also works very closely with Darcy. So both are Darcy's kind of partner in a sense, both of these. So Kelsey, what are your thoughts?
I don't know.
I think I know what you know. I just don't know if you know if you want to say what you know.
Gut reaction, it's gotta be Jimmy Woo, right?
It's gotta be
Jimmy Woo.
I mean, we love Eric Selvig, but even he has like that dark period. I forget what is it, the Avengers, where he kind of like goes evil for a minute, and he's a good part of that team in Thor, with Darcy and Jane Foster, but I think those two outshadow him, even though he is great. Jimmy Woo, though, it's every scene he's in, everyone's like, "Oh, Jimmy Woo," like
No,
we love
yeah.
him. Even in Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I watched recently, like he is not, he's an antagonist in a sense. He's going after Scott.
Right.
He's an antagonist to Scott's journey, but he's still so lovable and he's
Yeah.
so charismatic and fun.
Yes. Yep. That's exactly
Mhm.
the word I was going to use. He's just so lovable. And Eric's a good character in a sense where he kind of acts as this bridge, right, between like
Mhm.
Thor's world and the Avengers, because
Right.
without Thor and Loki, like the Avengers don't happen. So you kind of
Mhm.
need that bridge to get Loki onto Earth, which is
Definitely.
Eric. So it's
Mhm.
not like he didn't do anything for the MCU. It's just
Right.
that Jimmy did more.
Yeah, especially recently. Okay, our
Yeah.
number 3 seed in this quarter is Kraglin. It was random. He's not someone you come to mind at first, of course, out of the Guardians. And again, we got another Guardian here, number 14, Gamora. I know which way I'm leaning, and I think it's kind of the typical way. I don't think we're going to see Kraglin advance, but I do see you holding your heart, Kel. So I will let you be the one to talk about it and make the verdict.
This hurts my heart. This hurts my
Hmm.
heart because Kraglin, like, he has a character arc. Like,
Oh,
it's
totally.
short and small, but
Hmm.
he starts, we see he's in both Guardians 1 and Guardians 2, but we see most of his character really develop. Um, and it looks like it's not even done developing by the end credit scene of Guardians 2, one of
Yeah.
them. We really see it develop in Guardians 2, where he's kind of ready to almost not overthrow Yondu, but is kind of with the rest of the Ravagers, where he's like, I don't understand your leadership anymore. You keep letting Peter Quill get away with things. Like, what kind of show are you running here, kind of thing.
Right.
To at the end, him siding with Yondu, and it just kills me every time he says, I didn't mean to start a mutiny. They killed all my friends. And like
Mm,
you just feel so bad for him,
right.
and you see him at the funeral, and he's like psyched that like all of his friends came out for Yondu's funeral. He just has such
Right.
good moments. Obviously, like Gamora, she is like so crucial to the MCU.
Yeah.
She goes through so much. She makes a complete 180 character wise. Um, Obviously it's got to be her, but I
Yeah.
did want
I
to
yeah.
put in those good words for
I want to
Cracklin.
say two things. First, Gamora, I think, is the main, at least in my mind, the main protagonist in Infinity War. If
Hmm.
if if Thanos is like the main character of Infinity War, but he's still an antagonist, I think she's definitely the protagonist. She's the one who dies the noble hero's death. She's the one who has that huge arc with Thanos. She is a huge part of that movie. I mean, obviously you have other protagonists, but I think she is such a huge part. She's my favorite part of Infinity War. And then Kraglin, we are advancing Gamora, by the way. Kraglin,
Okay, you
I
didn't
think
have
it's
to
also
twist the knife. I know.
I think it's also important to note that Kraglin plays Rocket on set. So Bradley
Hmm.
Cooper does the voice, but the actor plays Kraglin, Sean Gunn, does all that on set, and he's James Gunn's brother. So it's cool that he got a role in his brother's movie. All right, so
And I just wanted to say one
yep,
last thing about Gamora. It has just been such a pleasure just watching her character
yes,
grow and just
100%.
become like, even like apart from her being trained as a literal assassin, to going to making amends with her sister, to opening herself up for love, to actually receive love from Peter Quill, and
Right.
and advancing the unspoken thing they have. It's such a
Hmm.
shame that we don't know what her fate is going to be for the rest of the
Right.
MCU, but I really hope that she comes back.
Speaking of Peter Quill, this is going to be probably the hardest matchup here in this upper left quadrant. This was totally randomized, and I remember when I picked these names out of the hat, Kelsey was like agonizing. Number 6 is Groot. Number 10, Peter Quill. This is another Guardians matchup. We got two Guardians matchups back to back. I don't know for this one. This one is one I'm not totally
How do
made up
you
my mind
not
on.
know?
I mean, I know where my heart is, but again,
Right.
it's hard because Peter Quill is the thing that gets us into Guardians. It's the thing that like kind of like set the tone for Guardians. His character in the beginning. I honestly I think I'm lower on Peter Quill than you are. Like I'm very much a like I think he's the weakest of the Guardians in terms of like who I like the most. Like I think I like the other Guardians, Groot, Gamora, Drax, and Rocket much more than him. I think a
Mhm.
lot of people leave that movie thinking some people think he's their favorite. I don't, and I think a lot of that has to do again, like you said before this bracket was Infinity War, where he is the one who you know
Yeah.
they have Thanos like this. They're this close to beating Thanos, and then of course, he can't overcome his grief and
Yeah.
emotion, and he ends up ruining the plans for all of them. But again, you got to look at it at a human standpoint. Like he's a human. Well,
Half
part
human.
human, yeah, but he has those human emotions that makes him act out. And in retrospect, it makes sense. And in the end, it all did end up working out. But at the same time, it's hard to overlook that when Groot is just this sweet, pleasant. He makes mistakes too, but they're very naive and
Mhm.
aloof. It's not like
Mhm.
out of spite or out of selfishness. It's completely just naive, um, pleasant, humble, beautiful Groot. So I would advance Groot, but I just was making the case for Peter Quill.
I understand because I did the same for Frigga and Kraglin, so I get it. Yeah, this is no debate to me.
Okay.
It's got to be Groot because he is the one to make the sacrificial play for his teammates. He's such a team
Hmm.
player. He's all about family. His relationship with Rocket is like I think the best duo in the MCU.
Yeah.
Peter Quill sucks through the entirety of Infinity War, and it's
Oh, Infinity War.
before
Yeah,
he even no, not in Guardians because like I didn't hate him in Guardians. Obviously, he's very lovable in Guardians. You kind of hate that his father turns out to be a dipwad,
yeah.
and things like that. But like in Infinity War, like he is insufferable, and it comes way before he even makes the mistake of like waking up Thanos before they can get the gauntlet off of him. He's just like the entire time, like with Tony Stark, like he's like, "Oh, your plan's great, but it sucks, and maybe we should do the planning because it would just be better." Like I make him sound like Donald Trump because he sounds a little bit like Donald Trump in that movie. Like
Yeah.
it's great, but it sucks. Like he's just
Yeah. Oh, and all the
he,
Thor stuff too, the jealousy stuff, which is funny,
yeah,
but at the same time, you're like, dude, like it was funny the first time.
yeah.
Um,
It's
yeah,
interesting
honestly,
to
I,
see
I thought
what
you'd like him more. I thought you would be like more like, oh, this is a tough battle, but I guess this was an easy one for you.
no, this was easy. If Groot,
Okay.
I was like afraid that Groot was gonna be up against like someone else, like Tony or like
Oh,
Cap
okay.
or something, because
Cool,
then
cool,
that would
cool.
have been like a real
Tough
debate.
one.
I felt good knowing that he was going up against Peter Quill because I
Oh,
knew that I
interesting.
could fight for him.
All right, so of all this whole quarter, I thought that would be the toughest matchup, but it's not. We're moving on now to the 2 seed, Hope Van Dyne, which I believe, which one's Hope? Hope's the daughter, right? Hope's the Wasp.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
well, because there are two Van Dynes here.
yes.
There are
Hope is
two
a daughter.
Rambos, two, yeah,
Janet is Michelle
the mom.
Pfeiffer.
Okay, and we'll get to her in a sec. But number 15 seed here, Happy Hogan. This is tough because Happy's been around longer, and
Hmm.
we've gotten a little bit more out of Happy just over his whole arc. But I mean, Hope, like I think I like her better than Ant-Man at times, and
Mm,
especially in that second movie, like she's the one I like watching the most. I think she's a great pairing for Scott Lang. I think
yeah,
she is awesome. I love her fighting style. I mean, she's Ant-Man with wings, so she's infinitely cooler, I think.
for
She can't
sure.
grow necessarily, or not yet. We might see that in Quantum Mania. But I'm gonna put Hope through. I think I'm leaning that way. But again, Happy is like, he's a staple. But I think he's a staple in the same way that some characters are also staples, almost like Coulson too, where it's like, he is a side character, and he is more of a service to other people than he is his own
Hmm.
storyline. But take it away, Kels. What do you think about this?
You know, what I like about Happy is that he goes from just being like Tony Stark's bodyguard to being the head of security. And, he has that little moment in Homecoming where he's like, it actually took me a lot to tell you that I wanted a promotion. Like, can we talk about this like another time? Like,
Right.
so you kind of get these little moments, you get these little senses that his character has grown and like he becomes, head of security and all that stuff. And, he's kind of operating as his own, like, he's not really like, he doesn't really work for Spider-Man per se, even though like that is the whole gag in Far From Home. So he kind of is more now than ever functioning as an autonomous being rather than just like somebody's sidekick as he started off. So I do have to give him some credit for that. I mean, Hope Van Dyne, like she's a pioneer really because she's the first woman whose name is in the title of the Marvel movie. So I feel like on that factor alone, what kind of feminist would I be if I
Right.
just did not absolutely advance her for that? So
Cool. So Hope's going forward. So that's our top left quadrant. Those are all 8 matchups there. Now we're gonna move to the top right. Whoops, there we go. Move it on over. Do we see those?
yep.
Great. Just making sure I can. Cool. So the first matchup we have
Mm.
here. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I'm just gonna hide that right there. All right, cool. The first matchup we have, again, we just had Hope, and now we have Janet. She's the 1 seed. Again, this is just how it matched up on the random draw. Janet is the 1 seed, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, and then 16 is M'Baku. And personally, if we were to see this out, I would not put M'Baku as a 16 seed. I think he's way better than that. But that's just the way this bracket worked. So what are you thinking in terms of this matchup? Because this is a tough one, because two totally different personalities, two different services to their stories. What do you think?
Mm. I mean, I feel like we haven't seen enough of Janet. Maybe,
Hmm.
hopefully, we'll get more of her in Ant-Man 3. M'Baku, he kind of, makes a complete 180 in Black Panther. He kind of starts as like almost like what I was saying before. I forget, lost my train of thought. But he kind of makes a complete 180 in Black Panther because he
Yeah,
kind of starts as almost as like antagonist-y to T'Challa, and like he might be an enemy to being the person to save his life in that movie. So I think he
right.
deserves a lot of credit for that. And for me, I think it's M'Baku.
Okay. For me, I think they definitely underutilized him in Infinity War, and they
Mhm.
barely used him at all in Endgame. He's in like
Mhm.
2 shots. You do see him if you look, but it's not like it's one of those things where you have to look for him, and that's where I think that's more of an MCU problem than a M'Baku problem. Janet Van Dyne. Sorry, I tripped over my words there. Again, like, yeah, we haven't seen enough of her, but she is such a amazing part of that Ant-Man and the Wasp second movie. Like, she is that overarching heart, and like
Mm.
overall objective for everyone is to find her and get to her. And when she has that moment where she kind of communicates through Scott, I love that moment. And I am going to
Mm.
advance in Baku. It's another 16-1 upset, but I do think we should at least acknowledge Janet, because I think she is going to be a great character in this MCU, and I think we got a good glimpse. um Next, this is the hardest matchup in this bracket. It's the 8 seed Scott Lang versus the 9 seed Tony Stark. That's how the randomizer had it. I remember when I
Oh,
picked this random matchup too, Kelsey was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, that's how the cookie crumbles. That's how the hat decides." So,
yeah.
I'll give my thoughts first. I've always been one that hasn't loved Ant-Man as a movie, but loved him as a character.
Mm.
I think he works a little bit better as a comedic relief in a big group than he does as a star on his own.
Mm.
Tony is someone you are meant to kind of like love, but also kind of get annoyed at times. So he does
Right.
have parts where he is annoying, but I think his growth as a character, I mean, he is essentially the main character of the MCU, at least to this
Mhm.
point. And I do think he is just such a fleshed out character. I would advance Tony, but I do think Scott is such an important, especially in Endgame. That is my
Mhm.
favorite Scott, is that comedic relief. When he has a moment with Cassie, like I love it. So it's hard for me, but I would go Tony.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to lose Scott like this early. Like he
Right.
didn't even get really around in it's definitely it's got to be Tony.
Okay.
I really like the Ant-Man movies. I feel like they feel like classic superhero movies,
Mm-hmm.
Like he's criminal, gone good guy, with action packed girlfriend and like dorky like scientist old guy helping him. It feels very
Yeah.
classic. I can understand why people didn't like them as much because they
Right.
did feel like they were too much fitting into that formula that MCU is just known for.
Mm-hmm.
But I like Scott Lang a lot, like Ant-Man. But it's Tony. It's
Yep.
always been Tony.
All right, so it's not as hard as a battle as I thought. The next one is two MCU beloved, lovely ladies. 5 is Pepper Potts. Our 12 seed here is Nakia, who is played by Lupita Nyong'o in Black
Hmm.
Panther. This is tough. Again, we've seen so much more of Pepper than we have Nakia. I think both actresses are amazing. They're both Oscar-winning actresses. They do a good job. But I feel like Pepper Potts just has a lot more in the MCU to dissect and evaluate. Nakia hasn't broken through yet, and it's going to be tough. As we know, Black Panther 2, T'Challa won't be there, so it'll be
Mm.
interesting to see how Nakia, what her story is there. So I'm going to advance Pepper, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Oh, this is tough. I love Pepper because, like Happy, she kind of starts as like just an employee of Tony to becoming the CEO of the
Mm-hmm.
company, being on the cover of Forbes, all of this great stuff. But Nakia, like, just like pure, just like power and style, I think. Like, she's just, she's this badass, like, woman warrior who
Yeah.
just saves women in Africa, like, she's just so cool.
Hmm.
This is tough. You're fighting for Pepper.
I'm fighting for Pepper. I mean, that
Ooh,
relationship with Tony Stark, just like over the whole course,
I
I mean, it's paid
know.
off in Endgame. It's established earlier. She gets to fight a lot in Iron Man 3, which I think is cool. She fights a lot in Endgame.
Yeah,
She gets
yeah,
her
that's
moments of
true.
action and
Yeah,
badassery.
yeah.
But Nakia's great too. I wouldn't be upset if we have to go to a coin flip, but it's up to you.
I think if if we had seen Nakia in more movies, maybe this would be harder, but because of all those things that you just mentioned, like, I completely forgot about everything she goes through in Iron Man 3 where she's, like, has extremis in her and becomes a
Mhm.
badass, so, um, it's Pepper. I'm sorry,
Okay, Pepper's
Nakia.
advancing. Sorry, Nakia. Our first non-upset in that bracket, even though, like, if we were to really see these, I don't know if those are upsets. But next one, this is gonna be a tough one, I think. An easy one for me, but a tough one maybe for you. The 4 seed Bruce Banner versus the 13 seed Darcy Lewis.
Mm,
We saw Darcy just recently in WandaVision. She was great. I think she had a terrible payoff. I don't blame her. I
I
blame
know,
the
dude.
writers. I wish they gave her a better ending than just hitting him with a bus and being like, "See you in prison." But Bruce Banner has always been my favorite character in the MCU, so I'm not going to fight against him. As much as I love Darcy, Bruce, I mean, I love even in Incredible Hulk. It's not my Bruce Banner, Edward Norton, but I think he does bring something interesting to it. Whereas Mark Ruffalo, though, was my favorite part of Avengers, probably my favorite part of Thor Ragnarok, maybe my favorite part of Infinity War and Endgame. Like, he is so good in that role. I just think the arc from guy who can't control the Hulk to a guy who like can control the Hulk, but then makes
Mm,
mistakes as the Hulk and like cannot then return to being the Hulk, but then to end up being this merge of the two. I think it's one of the most interesting and intriguing character arcs of the whole MCU. Just seeing his journey and the fact that they have two actors playing him might hurt him, but I do think
mm.
both of them bring something at least unique. Where it's like you're not trying to replace Edward Norton, you're doing something completely different, and each one is interesting in their own way. So I'm Team Bruce Banner 100%. Uh, 8 days out of 7. So you let me
Um,
know, Kels. If we need to go to a coin flip, we will. But I'm just putting all my eggs in Bruce's
Listen,
basket.
I'm looking at these 2 characters and I'm thinking, like, entertainment-wise, just pure, like, entertainment factor. Darcy is the better character to just watch on screen.
I don't know
For me,
though.
for
Okay,
me,
okay, okay, okay.
because listen. Bruce Banner, I'm sorry, like Edward Norton, Mark Ruffalo, doesn't matter. He's just always kind of bored me in the MCU. And I
Hmm.
think it's because they handled his character so poorly with like the first Incredible Hulk movie being just like the disaster that it was.
Right,
I feel like had they made other movies with Mark Ruffalo, I would have cared about him more.
right.
I would have
Okay.
like we would have delved more into like his whole world. Maybe if they
Hmm.
made a movie about him trying to become Professor Hulk, whoever he is,
Hmm.
maybe we'll get a prequel of that. We probably
Maybe,
won't. We
probably
won't.
won't.
But
Keep in mind we also are incorporating their superhero bodies with them. So like this is also the Hulk. It's not just Bruce Banner, but
no,
you
I
know.
know, and that's, like, another thing, it's like, okay, so he goes from being this, like, nerdy, like, science guy who's less has less of a personality than Tony, so they already have the science guy, but they have this extra science guy who has less of a personality, and then when he's there in battle, he's just, like, this mindless creature, basically, whose
Yeah.
only, like, word is smash. I don't know, he's just always kinda bored me as a
Okay.
superhero. I know that you love him. I know he's your favorite, and um, at the end of the day, I think I'm gonna agree with you here and advance him.
Okay.
But just like
Great.
just because contribution wise to the MCU, like in Endgame, all of that, it's got to be him. But Darcy is better.
Okay. Well, Bruce is advancing. You made that call. I told you you could
I
do a coin flip. But
I
all right,
know.
here we go. There we go. So the next grouping, we have our 6 seed versus our 11 seed. A 6 seed is Ramonda, T'Challa's mother,
Mm,
and then Ned from
mm.
Spider Man. This is interesting because
This is
this is
hilarious.
this is. I feel like in a fight, Ned would lose. But I think in
Oh,
terms
Ned's
of
getting his ass whooped. Are you kidding? It's no contest. He would like run the other direction. He wouldn't even fight. He'd be like,
I
her? Oh, I gotta go.
like, can we play with Legos instead?
Yeah, literally.
I think Ned is the better character. Like, I just think we get to know him more. But Ramonda,
Yeah.
like, she's such this like cool, poised, like
Yeah.
badass woman. But again, we
Yeah.
don't see her. I feel like if we saw her maybe 20 years younger when she's like kicking ass, like actual ass, opposed to
Mm.
just like overseeing and like being like this mother figure, which is beautiful and amazing. We'll
Mhm.
get to like Aunt May later. When we talked about Frigga, also like the mother figure is so important in these movies, especially because a lot of them are more father figure dominated. You know, dominated with like Howard Stark and Hank Pym and T'Chaka and all that. Where I
Mhm.
think it's important when we do see these mother figures. It's really great. I'm
Yeah.
gonna advance Ned just because I love him as a character. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's Ned.
I think it's cool that he's, Peter's for a hot second at least, he's Peter's guy in the chair. So,
Yeah.
yeah, Ned, I agree.
Cool. All right. Moving on now. This is another tough one. I thought this was probably the second hardest in this bracket, next to Tony Stark and Ant Man. It is Doctor Strange, the 3 seed, and then Rocket, our beloved raccoon, squirrel, rabbit, at 14. This just was randomized, so this is how the cookies crumbled.
Yeah.
I have a favorite here, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Okay, well, I just for they both have excellent arcs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but Stephen Strange's arc has been done before. Already saw someone overcome their narcissism and greed and things like that in Tony,
Mm-hmm.
With Rocket, they almost are struggling with the same things, but Rocket's just more I'm going to go back to that entertainment factor. He's just more entertaining about it. And
Mm-hmm.
he is hard and like mean to people and gets like drunk while they're in nowhere and just starts yelling about things but there's something about Rocket where you want to care for him and you want
Mm-hmm.
him to overcome this struggle
Yeah.
where he feels like he can't have a family and loved ones and you kind of feel for him because he's this experiment that's been experimented on and he has like all those things in his back when they're getting
Right.
changed for the prison in Guardians 1. He's an easy character to care about, where with Steven you kind of have to fight your way to like really care about him. Like you don't really end up caring about Stephen Strange as much. You kind of just think that it's cool that his fighting style is different from anyone else's and that he has the ability to control time. And that's the
Yeah.
only reason why like he's important, really.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's
It's
Rocket.
Rocket. Yeah, I think Steven is much more of an important character in the MCU for all he does in his abilities. But I do think personal enjoyment, this is our personal favorites. This is not who we think is better or a better fighter or more integral for the MCU. I do think Stephen Strange is going to be a huge part of it. I think he already is, but I think Rocket is the better character. I agree with you.
And I
Um,
don't think Rocket gets enough credit because he's kind of the brawn and the brain. He
yeah.
makes all his weapons. He fixes the ship and then he's able to just like that scene. Like I'm so glad they included like that scene of Guardians 2 when all the Ravagers are going to like invade the ship and he just has all these gadgets around and he like almost single handedly, I was trying to say like single paw idly, takes down like a good chunk of the Ravengers. It was just
Yeah.
to protect Groot. That's another thing I always come back to. It's like he makes this full arc where he literally has his son Groot and he has this family. I think he even says a line in Endgame to Thor like I lost the only family I ever had. Like we've all
Right.
lost people and it just breaks
Mhm.
my heart every time. So
Yeah. So segueing from that line, we have Thor now at the number 7 seed, and then our 10
yep.
seed is MJ, played by Zendaya.
Yep.
I think it's no question here, but I do want to give MJ a little bit of credit. I
Okay.
do love, I do love her moments in Far From Home with Peter. I think it's a beautiful
Mm-hmm.
relationship. It's awkward teen romance. Oop, let me make sure I don't get logged out. There we go. It's awkward teen romance, but I
Yep.
just love it. I think it's
Yep.
adorable. But it's Thor.
It's Thor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Thor. Nothing wrong with the way Zendaya plays MJ or anything. I just think that they handled MJ and Peter's arc like so tragically. Like they go from not even knowing each other, we don't even know who she is for the majority of Homecoming, to
Right.
then him spending an entire movie trying to ask her out. And
Right.
the
I
only
agree.
thing that they did handle well, I will admit, is their kiss, which was so delightfully
Yeah.
awkward. It's entertaining to watch every time, and that's the only thing that I like about their relationship so far.
Yeah. I like their relationship in Spider-Man Far From Home better because, Homecoming, we get nothing with the two of them.
Yeah.
The thing is, I feel like Spider-Man Far From Home, if you don't even have that first movie and it's just, this is Peter Parker going on a school trip, this is the girl he likes, I think it works. I think when you take Homecoming into account, you're like, wait, where did this come from? That's where
Yeah.
it's a little weird. But I think on its own, it's good. But yeah, Thor's a winner. We'll talk about him in the second round more in depth, so we don't need to spend time on him now. Our 2 seed here is Yondu going up against a 15 T'Chaka. So these are two father figures, one a daddy, one a father.
This is good.
Um,
This is good.
so I personally love Yondu. It's a reason I love Guardians 2 more than Guardians.
Yeah.
I think it is such a good movie because of that moment. I think that whole idea of, he was your father, but he wasn't your daddy or
That's
something like that.
exactly what I was going to say. He
It was
might
a
have been your
beautiful moment.
father, but he weren't your daddy. That's
Yeah,
not
that
a
is a
good
beautiful moment.
Yondu, but
And I think it's a good redemption arc, for him, because he is
yes.
kind of this antagonist, like anti-hero, and then he becomes a full hero. He has a memorable Mary Poppins y'all moment. T'Chaka, he serves the story well, but again, I feel like it's one of those father figures where he doesn't get to stand out on his own as much. It's more for T'Challa and his story. The moments are heartbreaking, but again, even in the flashback scenes, it's more of his brother's story and how he dies at the hands of T'Chaka than T'Chaka's story itself. Like, I always feel like it's always T'Chaka and someone else, and that someone else always dominates the moment. So I would go Yondu.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. It's got to be Yondu, because I feel like T'Chaka is really just kind of like the Uncle Ben for T'Challa. Someone
Yeah,
who needed to
yeah,
die so he could, But then again, like his death is only really prevalent during Civil War, and that's the whole reason why Black Panther is intertwined in that storyline, is because he's looking for the man who killed his father. So even like beyond Civil War, like T'Chaka doesn't really play a part in T'Challa's life anymore. I mean,
yeah.
obviously they have a scene once T'Challa, gets the Black Panther flower medicine goo back into
The
him,
herb, yeah,
the herb. Thank you.
the
The
purple
flower
heart or whatever. Yeah, the purple
goo.
herb.
Yeah.
Let's move on. It's Yondu.
it's definitely Yondu.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. But now we're in our bottom. We're in our bottom right quadrant. So that was our top left and our top right. Now we're in our bottom right. Our 1 seed here. This is one where like it makes sense they're a 1 seed,
Yeah.
but like there were other 1 seeds I put ahead of him. But Nick Fury against 16 seed Okoye. This is 2 Wakandans now in 16 seeds. We saw M'Baku advance. Is Okoye going to advance? Kelsey, give me your lowdown.
I mean, this is tough because, he's like the puppet master, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who brings them all together. He's the whole reason why he's like a crucial role in why all the Avengers are the people the way they are today. He's kind of nurtured like Natasha into the person that she is today. He's the whole reason why like Tony is the reason why he's in today, because even though he didn't think Tony would work as a good team player, he invites him in anyway, and it turns out that he like being in a team was the thing that Tony absolutely needed to become like a complete human being. He gives like Cap a new purpose, being that he's this man at a time. He played like he's almost like a father to all of them, strangely. Okoye, I mean, she's just a badass though, on the other hand. Like she's just a badass. Like she has great moments in Black Panther. My favorite moment with her is when her husband, Daniel Kaluuya, is riding on the rhino, and it just immediately comes to a halt and then like licks her face, and she's like, yeah, see, you're not fighting me. What's happening here? That's one of my favorite moments with her. I think she's just like so cool. She's so admirable. They did her dirty in Endgame. They gave her like jack shit to do in Endgame, even though
Same
she
as
didn't get
M'Baku,
dusted.
Well,
But
that's a good point too. She didn't even get dusted, and she still got nothing.
Yeah. And what I love about her is that, you kind of see this look on her face. This is giving credit to the actor.
Denai
I
Guerrero.
I was going to attempt it. Thank you for saying it.
Yeah.
You know, we see this look on her face as soon as she watches T'Challa dust into
Yeah.
nothingness. You just see she's like she devotes her life to protecting this man and to protecting Wakanda, and to just watch him like dust into nothingness was just heartbreaking. And I just want to, last little note for me, want to shout out her line. She says in Infinity War, someone says, I forget who says, like, oh, it's going to be the fall of Wakanda. And she just says, then it will be the noblest fall in history. And I'm just
Wow.
like,
Yeah.
she's just so wise and she's such a badass. I genuinely, after saying all of that, I still don't know who to pick. So Dylan, please give me your thoughts.
Yeah. So Nick Fury is someone who I think is so integral for Phase 1. He is, I think, up there with with Tony, Cap, Hulk, and Thor. Like, he is then the next best. Like, because Black Widow and Hawkeye, we don't get enough of them until like later phases. He is one of the stars of that first phase. My problem, second phase, he doesn't do as much for me. He's in Winter Soldier, but he's not like the main part of Winter Soldier for me. Where it reels me back in with Nick Fury is Captain Marvel. Watching him when he's younger, uh, with Goose and all that stuff, like that is my favorite stuff that he has done since Phase 1, and probably in the whole MCU is Captain Marvel. I love him in
For
Captain
sure.
Marvel.
For sure.
My thing with Okoye is she's in less of the MCU, so she has less of an impact, but the stuff she's in, she's super memorable in them. I think she was given a dirty screen time amount in Endgame. I think it was not right. She's a great part of Infinity War. She's an amazing part of Black Panther. I think in a few more movies, in a few more years, I think Okoye could jump there, but I'm still going to stick with Nick Fury just because I think his Phase 1 contribution is integral. His Captain Marvel moment reeled me back in. He was so good in it. And Samuel L. Jackson, he's just really got such a great charisma, and both of them are great. This is a tough one for me, but if I had to go, I'd go like 52% Nick Fury, 48% Okoye at this point.
You know, I think this is going to be our first coin flip.
Nice.
I think I got to stick with
nice.
My badass women.
All right, so I got my phone here. Heads is going to be the higher seed, which is Nick Fury. Tails is going to be the lower seed, Okoye. Ready?
Okay.
Siri, flip a coin. Okoye.
Yay! Okoye got it. Woohoo!
Okoye got it.
I love that for her.
Next round is the 8 seed Aunt May versus the 9 seed Bucky Barnes. This is tough. We didn't put Bucky in our villains ranking, obviously.
Yeah.
I meant tough because it's tough because Aunt May doesn't have a chance.
Yeah.
It's tough for her.
Yeah.
Not tough decision. It's an easy decision. It's Bucky. We're going to advance him now.
Yeah.
But, it's interesting because he wasn't in the villains ranking, even though he is a villain in Winter Soldier. But I do think now with this past series, and with all the other movies after Winter Soldier, and with First Avenger, he is a hero. He really is. And he's an amazing hero. He's a noble hero. He's a little bit quieter of a personality, but I think that really works for him. Aunt May, really great, again, mother figure. I think she's less of that, just like there to serve the story. I think she actually has great moments of her own with Happy and all that too.
Yeah.
She's just really cool too. I love Marissa Tomei. I think it's a cool casting choice. The original Spider-Man, it's like always the older lady who's like, oh, Peter. But now it's like, yeah, I'm your spunky aunt. What you gonna do? And I really like her. But it's Bucky.
Yeah, I mean, had Aunt May kind of like this in this version of Aunt May in the MCU, this whole Spider-Man with Tom Holland, Aunt May doesn't really serve as someone that Peter Parker will like do anything for, kind of thing, because there was no Uncle Ben death. Like he didn't have to like go through losing Uncle Ben to
there might have been.
Being
we just
like,
don't know. Yeah.
Right. But of course, because he does have his suitcase in Far From Home, he has a Ben Parker suitcase.
Oh, really? I didn't even realize that.
The initials on the suitcase he takes to the trip say BP, so everyone's like Ben Parker. But obviously we don't see it happen on screen, obviously, so it's not like, because I feel like with the other Spider-Mans, the Spider-Men, if you will, like Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, like they kind of like serve their Aunt May, and then like everything they do is in the eyes of Aunt May, will, she like this choice that I make, how can I protect her, kind of thing, where we don't really get this with Tom Holland's Peter Parker.
Right.
So I feel like had that been more like included, maybe she would have stood a chance against Bucky, like maybe, but yeah, but she doesn't.
Yeah.
So
All right, cool.
it's Bucky.
Our number 5 seed, we group these together because you can't have one without the other. It's like Chip and Dale. It's Korg and Meek against the 12 seed James Rhodey Rhodes. Here is an interesting one because I think one is definitely more influential in the story. It's Rhodey, but
Yeah.
in terms of entertainment value and who I just like more, I like watching Korg and Meek more. I just do.
Yep.
I like
Yeah.
them. Rhodey is fine, but like again, Rhodey has always been like really great, but not like never stands out to me. And even in Falcon and Winter Soldier, his scene, I'm like, all right, Rhodey's there. It's not like this, oh my God, Rhodey, And Don Cheadle's great, but it's Korg and Meek for
Mhm.
me.
Yeah, it's Korg and Meek for me too, just because like James Rhodes, like he always like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is the first time we haven't seen him just kind of be Tony Stark's best friend. Like
Right.
everything about him is just like I work for the US government and I'm also Tony Stark's best friend, and like that has been his whole character throughout the entire MCU.
Right.
And so it's just not as entertaining as just watching these two alien life forms, this guy made of rocks and this weird squid-like thing, just be like, I'm cool, this is Meek, I'm a big pile of rocks waving at you. Like it's hilarious.
I have a question. Do you think one would advance without the other still? Or do you think you need them both together?
No, you
Like,
need them together.
okay, so like Meek wouldn't have beat Rhodey.
No.
Korg wouldn't have beat Rhodey. It's the together.
Yes, it's
Okay.
absolutely together.
I agree. I probably would have put Korg over Rhodey, but I think Korg and Meek together solidifies it. And I don't, yeah. Number 2 here is, or no, not number 2, sorry. Number 4, Maria Hill versus 13, Everett Ross. That is the guy from Black Panther, Martin Freeman's character. This is interesting because they're two people without superpowers. They're just kind of like agents. But I think Everett Ross, because he is this comedic relief in a story like Black Panther, I think it works much more than Maria Hill, who's just kind of there. And again, like I hate this because it's like a lot of these female characters just aren't as developed, and I just think that's a problem with Marvel itself. For some characters, I just don't think she's developed enough to where she always just feels like Nick Fury's right hand lady, and it's just I don't get a lot of her,
Yeah.
a lot from her. So
No,
I would
yeah.
advance Everett Ross, even though I don't think either of these have really this huge impact on the overall franchise.
I'm just thinking about how we're gonna advance Everett Ross right now, and he's going up against Corgan Meek the next like go around, which is gonna be interesting to talk
So
about.
we're advancing Everett.
Yeah, for sure. Just because
Okay.
like he just has more personality, there's just
Right.
more energy to his character when he's on the screen compared
Mhm.
to Maria Hill, who we've seen a bunch throughout the MCU,
Yeah.
but like even if she's not there, the movies still operate fine without her. I hate to say, but
Yeah.
yeah, with Martin
All right.
Freeman, he's more entertaining.
Great. So we're moving on now to the bottom. This matchup is one of my favorites. At least the 6 seed here is Goose, the cat from
Yep.
Captain Marvel,
Yep.
going up against Howard Stark, our 11 seed. This one is interesting because one, it's like novelty over like actual overall importance. Howard Stark is much more important to the story, but again, like
Yeah.
it's the Corrigan Meek versus Rhodey thing. It's like, yeah, Howard Stark is important, but like Goose is a scene stealer. Goose is amazing. I love Goose. I don't know, Kelsey. Help me make up my mind because I don't know.
Honestly, my gut is telling me Goose. Just because,
Okay.
like, there's no redeeming quality about Howard. Like, there's nothing about him. There's no moments in the MCU where we're like, oh, so there was a reason why he was such a bad father the whole time. We never really get that. Correct
In
me if I'm wrong, Bill.
Endgame, that scene with him and Tony,
Oh,
I
come on.
love that scene. That scene is beautiful. That's
I
that's the moment that
guess.
makes me cry
I
the most in that
guess.
movie.
I
That
know,
moment.
but like he's talking about Tony before he's even born. So of course he's like, yeah, there's nothing I wouldn't do for him. And but that doesn't make up for like the years of like if he was a good father from like to Tony from like birth to like like 5 years old or like 8 years old when you actually start remembering things. If he's a shitty father from then on out, it doesn't matter all the good stuff he did when, from 8 to 0
Right,
because
true.
like Tony wasn't like even conscious for all the good stuff that might have
Yeah.
happened during that.
Yeah. I think that's the purpose of the scene though, is to show like, he did I mean, something went wrong, but like it's kind of Tony seeing this moment of what his father, like his unconditional love from his father, and how he is a little nervous, but like that's where you see the most fatherly love, and it's before he's even born. I agree,
Right.
it doesn't make him a better character, but I think that is a moment where you can at least see the heart of Howard. I'm going with Goose too, though. I'm going with Goose because that
Okay.
moment is just amazing. Is it a he, she? Do we know?
I don't think we know.
We'll just call them Goose. The moment where they claw out
Yeah.
his eye is just awesome. A lot of people were pissed off about it. I was like, that's so funny. Like, why does it have to be this big moment where he loses his eye? Like,
Yeah,
it
no.
happens. All right. The next one is a tough one. This one happened randomly. These next two are both family battles, and it's tough. This one's Maria Rambeau versus Monica Rambeau, which is the 3 and the 14. This
Oh.
randomly happened. We are taking Monica's whole arc, including WandaVision, into account, and I think that does help her. Um,
Mm.
but Maria is so important for Captain Marvel's story, and she really is that backbone of that relationship in that moment, that scene. Oh, this is tough for me. I'm leaning Monica just because we got so much great stuff from her from WandaVision. I think she's gonna end up being some huge figure. But Maria is great too. I don't know. Kelsey, help me out.
I think I'm gonna go Monica too.
Okay. Yeah, I think so.
She's just so cool and like spunky. So
Yeah.
I like her.
Yeah, she just gets a lot more to do, I think, in the MCU just because she had a whole 8 episode or 9 episode season, whereas Maria only got the one movie. But Maria is, I think, one of my favorite parts of Captain Marvel for sure.
Yeah.
All right, the next one is another family battle: 7 Shuri, 10 T'Challa. It's not necessarily a tough battle for me, but I do think both of them are great. And I hate that they're going up against each other because I would have advanced either of them probably on their own against some of these other advancees.
Yeah.
Um, I'm leaning towards T'Challa, obviously,
Yeah.
but yeah,
I think there's a lot to appreciate with Shuri because like
yeah,
she's a nerd with like all this tech stuff, but like she's also like so cool and like so
yeah.
funny. Just like a lovable character in general. But I think it's gotta be the king of Wakanda himself, King T'Challa. So
Great. So those were 2 easy battles. This one might not be as easy. We'll see. Number 2 seed Valkyrie versus number 15 Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye. Kelsey, I want your thoughts first for this one.
I mean, you know me. You know I'm not the biggest fan of like Clint Barton slash
Yeah.
Hawkeye. I
Hmm.
always make the joke like they saved. Not only did Pietro sacrifice himself, but Natasha also sacrificed herself for him. We haven't seen why yet. Maybe he becomes just better and more entertaining, and gives more during his TV show that we're gonna see.
Yeah.
Like maybe, but the
But also,
only
like, how long does it have to take before you get to like really get some, story and like,
right,
it's
exactly.
been 3 phases, and Endgame we get a little bit of it just because we do see his children and his story there, and how he
I
goes dark, but then Natasha pulls him out, but then she
right.
sacrifices and he has to make this noble victory at the end. And yeah, I don't know.
I just don't think anything about him has grown. Like, yes, in Endgame, like he has like a split second where he's like Ronin, this like
Hmm.
anti Hawkeye person who's just, lashing out because he lost his family. But I don't even like consider that to like really be an arc because it happens like so quick. Like
Right.
it's literally just a scene. It's not like he spent an entire movie being an inherently bad person who needed to overcome something. Like
Yeah.
it's literally a very quick scene and he's able to like come back from it like very quickly kind of thing. So I
Yeah.
just don't think where with Valkyrie, like she has a very clear arc. She lost this epic battle against Hela. She completely abandons her country, her city, Asgard. She is an alcoholic. She's just so entertaining to watch. Very funny. Has this nice like quippiness, like back and forth kind of relationship with Thor. Helps him get off Sakaar and becomes a Valkyrie again, And I think that Valkyrie and Thor have this great relationship where they're able to like fulfill something for one another that normally like wouldn't be there. They both kind of
Yeah.
re give themselves kind of like almost self-confidence almost. And I like how at the end of Endgame he crowns her the king of Asgard. So this one's not a hard decision for me. It's got to be Valkyrie.
Yeah, I don't have strong opinions about Hawkeye like some people in either direction. I don't hate him like some people do, but I don't love him. Like he's not out of the original 6, he's the worst, I think. But Valkyrie in her 2 movies she's in really makes a great, impression. And she is my favorite part next to Corrigan Meek and Hulk of Ragnarok, and that's a packed movie. Got a lot of stuff going on, so I'm advancing Valkyrie as well. All right. Did you have any last words? It looked like you were trying to say something.
Well, I don't even think that I like hate Clint. It's that I just feel so indifferent towards him. I'd almost prefer it if I hated him. If I was like, hate that guy. It's just that he's just so boring and useless that I have no opinion, and therefore it makes me like dislike his character more.
Right. All right, so that was our bottom right. Now we're in our bottom left. This is our last quarter before we then go to the next round.
I thought that was okay.
Since we've spent a lot of time talking about these characters, obviously the next rounds there'll be less to talk about. Maybe it's tougher decisions, but number 1 seed here is Steve Rogers versus the 16 Io, another Wakandan who just happened to be picked in the 16 seed. That was totally random. But we did see Okoye and M'Baku make it through. I don't think we'll see Io make it through this one. Kelsey.
Yeah, it's Steve Rogers.
It's Steve. I don't think we need to spend much time on that. Io's great. She's a great fighter, but we really don't get much of her as a person. As much as we do Okoye and like M'Baku and Nakia and Shuri and of course T'Challa. Our 8 seed here is Drax and our 9 seed here is Wanda. This one destroys me because these are my number 2 and 3 of all time. So I am indifferent. Am I? I have a rooting interest here. I do. I think one is not significantly, the opposite of significantly. What is the opposite? Like very slimly over the other. Like I'd put one very slimly over the other.
Like one goes over the other just by like a hair.
Like it's a 51 to 49% difference. Like it's not like.
Who is it?
I'm not going to say who. I want you to say
fine.
Who first, because maybe you'll sway my mind, but I have a rooting interest here. I think I know who I want for this one, but this is all, I want to hear what you have to say before we go to a coin flip, maybe.
Well, first of all, I just have to say that it took me a while to kind of like get behind what am I saying? Get behind Drax's comedy style or Dave Bautista, if you will. Like I kind of found him a little annoying during the Guardians films. Like upon rewatching, like I've come to appreciate his humor,
Wow.
His humor is kind of like an acquired taste, not to say that Dave Bautista does a bad job. I just think that particular type of comedy is like you either love it or you hate it. And I know for you, Dill, you absolutely love it.
I love it.
No, I know you
like
do.
All the oblivious humor. It's like dad humor, but it's like not intentional dad humor. It's like completely just so funny. I don't know if you hear my dogs barking, but like they agree. Like Drax is hilarious.
They're saying yes, absolutely. He is the funniest.
The invisible part is what everyone talks about, but it's like even the other moments, like the why is Gamora? Like
yeah.
So
I'll do you one better. Why is Gamora? Yeah.
And his laugh is so good too. The like.
And I'll give credit to Dave Bautista because it takes a really talented actor to be able to pull those type of jokes off really well. And I think that he just nails it. He like hits it out of the park every time. So good for him.
A wrestler turned actor too. He's not like a trained actor.
He's pulling a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, a John Cena.
Yeah. Yes.
Wait, I did not know this about Dave Bautista.
Talk about Wanda while I look that up about Dave Bautista.
So obviously, if we're comparing just on arc alone, I think we have to give it to Wanda. Just because I don't feel like Drax really gets over his impulses to just like kill at whatever for his family, like obviously like he lost his family, like he shouldn't get over that quickly. I understand why his character doesn't, but he kind of doesn't really learn from his mistakes of like beckoning Ronan to nowhere and trying to defeat him. Then like he's constantly like, even in Guardians 2, the opening fight scene, he's like, I will single-handedly take down this like giant squid thing, and he like jumps down its throat, and it's like he's always making those kind of decisions, and they're funny to watch, but it's also like, dude, you've done this before, like, where just Wanda's just like she's I feel like we've talked about Wanda's arc and everything Wanda's become a bunch with WandaVision, but my winners, it's got to be Wanda, right?
Yeah, that is my pick, only because again, I think she has more of a emotional arc, but
Yeah.
Drax is so funny, and he is my favorite Guardian. He is my third favorite Avenger. It just happened to be that my number 2 and 3 went up against each other. It's like
Yeah, that's
it's always
tough.
been Hulk, and then Wanda, then Drax. So the fact that they went up against each other this early just sucked. It was random. That's what you gonna do. Number
Yeah.
5, Nebula going up against 12, Hank Pym. Nebula was not in our villains ranking because I think she spends more time in the MCU now as a hero, because she's a hero for Guardians 2, Infinity War, and Endgame, where she's just a villain for Guardians 1 and a little bit of Guardians 2. So I think she's now crossed over to a hero. Um,
Mhm.
what are your
For
thoughts,
sure.
Kels?
I mean, it's Nebula. As much as I love Hank and Michael Douglas. No, oh my god, what's his
Douglas.
name? Michael Douglas.
Douglas. Yeah.
It's Nebula, she overcomes so much, and I've said this to you before in over text, but like she's just such a great character. I feel like they kind of did her a little dirty in Endgame. I feel like in a universe where RDJ hadn't been playing Tony Stark for 10 plus years and wasn't trying to like end his career as Tony Stark, I feel like Nebula really should have been the one to ultimately take down Thanos, just because she
Yeah.
had gone through the most with him. She was literally torn apart and replaced every time she lost a fight. And just like her whole arc in Guardians too, she goes from still being the sister trying to get back Gamora to becoming almost like someone of the team. They have that hug at the end, and as awkward as it is, it's like you want these two sisters to get along and be there for one another, because she says to Gamora, you wanted to win and I just wanted a sister. And that
Mhm.
part just like breaks my heart every time, because you really feel for this person who's just, when she had nothing, all she wanted was a sister. And
Right.
Gamora was like, well, I was fighting for survival the same way you were. We were
Yeah.
both put in a horrendous situation. So
Mhm.
it's Nebula, because she's grown the most.
Mhm.
She's a badass fighter. She looks cool as hell. Karen Gillan gives her all to that performance. I feel very scared for her vocal cords, because she's talking in like a raspy whisper the entire time. She's like, they're not ripe yet. And like, that's the whole time she's as
Yeah.
Nebula. I'm like, I really hope she's a vocal coach, someone there to like
She definitely
help her
does. Yeah.
out.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, she kills it. So,
Yeah, Hank has been someone I've always been like, on. Like I've never really loved Michael Douglas, and I just don't know what it is.
okay.
I don't know. It's just like he's someone from my parents' era where like he was so big in
Mm,
their generation, but for me, it's just like, yeah, he's good, but yeah, Nebula's the winner here. I think next to Loki and Bucky, she has gone through the most growth of
yeah,
anyone.
for sure.
And Loki, even we put him in the villains ranking, but if Loki was here, I think he'd have a case too. Okay, number 4, Jane Foster. 13, Peter Parker. I know who
Peter
you're gonna
Parker.
advance. Yep, yep. Uh, Let me hear me out.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna put Peter through, but I'll even put him through on the video right there. Um, Jane Foster is gonna be the female Thor, and it's gonna be awesome.
Mhm.
I can't wait to see what she does. I always thought that the writing didn't serve her talents and her
Yeah,
well
I
enough.
agree.
I think she could have done so much more, and she didn't. And I think she felt that, and that's why she stepped away from the MCU. But the fact that she's coming back means they've got good stuff planned for her. I think a year from now, or whenever that comes out, like 2 or 3 years from now, if we do this again, she doesn't beat Peter, but she might advance in another matchup. But
Right.
it's got to be Peter. All right, last 8 right here. We got some tough battles coming up. Vision versus Odin, 6 versus 11. For me, I think this is another easy one. As much as Odin has the power, I
Mhm.
think Vision is just the better
I
character. I
don't
like
know. I
Vision
think
more.
this would be a pretty equal fight if Odin and Vision went toe to toe. Like, I think it'd be a good match. I honestly don't know who would win in
Well,
just pure
yeah,
physical combat wise.
pure physical, I don't know. I just meant like, what does Odin have going for him is his
Mm.
power, not necessarily in
Oh, okay.
conjunction with Visions. I think on
Sure.
his own, like he's got a lot of power, but he's not as memorable as a personality as Vision is. Anthony Hopkins is great, but there are better roles of his than this.
Right.
Vision,
Of course.
it's awesome what he does, and he's also Jarvis. So you also got to kind of keep that into account.
Yeah.
Um, I'm thinking Vision here.
I'm thinking Vision as well. Um, what I will say though about like both of these characters is that they really don't have an arc and it's purposeful because they kind of both start as very like rock solid beings that the chaos kind of like floats around almost
Hmm.
like people who don't need to be changed because they need to change others around them to kind of get on their level, which is something that
Right.
I do appreciate for them, but it's got to be Vision. We fell in love with him time and time again, and Paul Bettany is just
Yeah.
great.
Amazing. All right, here's another Captain Marvel matchup. Our number 3 is Captain Marvel herself. Our number 14, sorry, is Talos, the Skrull, played by Ben Mendelsohn. I think this is one of Ben Mendelsohn's greatest performances. I love him in everything, but he's really good in
Mhm.
this role. He steals a lot of the show. Again, I do think the Rambos and Goose and Nick Fury are also strong. So like, I don't think there's a standout in that movie. Um, but Captain Marvel, I mean, it's Carol. Like she is that story. She's the heart of that. And I know a lot of people have negative things to say about her and her arc. I know you've covered it in a video. It is a really amazing arc. I think I really like her character journey. I think it's underrated. Just in terms of sheer power too. Like she could beat maybe 62 of the 63 remaining people on this, on this bracket. Like I really think
Mhm.
she's that strong. Um,
Yeah.
I would go Captain Marvel, but like talk it through, Kelsey.
I agree. I think it's Captain Marvel just because
Okay.
of just like sure there's like relevance and like contribution I think to the MCU, but I really like the character Talos a lot or Talos. Um just cuz you know, he is just looking for a place to live, a place to put his
Mm-hmm.
family. So you kind of
Right.
feel for him and he has this amazing power. He's a shapeshifter. You know, he's a good character. I also agree. I love the actor's performance of this role, which is saying something
Mm-hmm.
considering he is decked out in just a complete like
Right.
mask. You
Right.
know,
I didn't
like
even know in the movie, like Ben. I mean, I don't know if you know Ben Mendelsohn well enough, like to recognize his face as a normal person, and you do in the beginning of the movie. I was like, oh, Ben Mendelsohn. And then when he just like disappears, I'm like, where did he go? Wasn't he one of the main characters? And I didn't
oh
put it together that
yeah,
he is also Talos. I was like, oh wait, yeah, that's him. Okay, because they disguise him so well. But again, his performance is so good despite being disguised.
hmm
Um, so yeah, that's easy for me. Though because I think Carol is a better character, but I think Talos is great.
yeah.
All right, our this is a tough one. Our number 7, again, these names get cut off. I did not misspell them, but Pietro Maximoff. In this this version, it's cut it off. It just says Pietro
Maximo.
Maximo, Maximo, and then 10 is Sam Wilson. This is not tough because of who I want to advance. I know who I'm going to advance, but it's tough because it's tough to cut one of these guys. It's just tough to cut one of them, but I know I'm going to pick Sam because like he's the new Captain America.
I
He has such
know.
a great again, like he's one of those people that's always around but never really broke through. For me though, he was always a top 5 since like Civil War. Like I've always
hmm
loved Falcon, and I think a lot of people slept on him, and now he's coming into the limelight a little bit more obviously because he's the new Captain America.
hmm
But I'm going Sam all the way, but Pietro has a good arc, but I think that's more again to serve as Wanda's and even Clint's.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go Sam Wilson.
I mean, I feel like we need
Ooh.
to do a coin flip.
You're team Pietro? And we're
I
talking like real Pietro, not Boner. Not Ralph
no, I
Boner.
know we're not talking about Ralph Boner. Do not even bring up his name when we're talking about Pietro Maximoff and not Peter or Fietro or whatever that guy's real identity is,
Yeah.
okay? Um, listen, I love this character a lot. I'm so sad that we lost him so soon. I love this performance. Aaron Taylor Johnson, I love this performance. This is just a death that will just always really bother me,
Hmm.
and not just
Yeah.
because it was for Clint, who like didn't need to be saved, but just because like his character was like so cool and like he had this like suave energy to him and he was like while all the Avengers are arguing, like he just quickly runs around, unplugs everything, and is like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to finish? Like you were saying." Like, and
Right.
it's not in an arrogant, like off-putting way. It's still in a way where you can like him and appreciate him for like who he is. Sam honestly really wasn't interesting to me until the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like I'm sorry,
Oh,
but I'm one of those
okay.
people that really overlooked him. Like I shouldn't have, because looking back on it, like he really does, carry on the legacy of Cap well, obviously, as we've seen his character grow. But like I feel like through the movies, if we're just talking about, Winter Soldier and like Civil War,
No, we
and
are talking Falcon and Winter Soldier as well. They
no,
just
I
had to
know.
have, yeah, okay.
I know, but just because like this is so recent, like if we're just
Mm,
looking at like his character in the movies, like we didn't really get much of like what kind of person he was,
right.
like he was just kind of there to be Cap's sidekick, unfortunately. Um, you could make the same argument about Pietro. I can give this one to
It's
Sam. I don't feel
really
bad. I don't
okay.
feel bad giving this one to
Okay.
Sam.
All right. It
I
was
think they
see,
both are equally deserving, though.
see, I think it was much tougher for you than it was me. For me, it was no question. But alas, I had to say goodbye to Drax though, so I know how you feel.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2, Mantis. Number 15, Luis. For me, this might be a controversial opinion. I think Mantis is better. I like Mantis a lot. I think she again has a lot of the Drax humor where it's like so like aloof and like so like not self-aware. It's so
Yeah.
funny. And I like the fact that her power is just being able to like tap into someone and get their truths out, because it really is effective. It really is. I mean, it has a purpose, and it's not like this blow you away power, but it is effective. Luis is a scene stealer when he is on, but
Mhm.
again, like I've just never been too hot on the Ant-Man movies, and when they do his little bit, I'm like, oh, that's funny, but I'm not like, oh my god, this character Luis, like, oh my god, like, um, I don't know. I know you might think differently, but let me know.
I don't know, that's kinda how I feel about Mantis. She was another one
Okay,
where, like, the same type of humor as Drax, like, I kinda had to get used to it a little bit to appreciate it.
right.
I will say that my favorite quote of hers is, like, "Take names and kick ass," or, like, whatever
No,
it
it's
is.
kick names and take ass.
Oh, I said it
Like
correctly.
you said it correctly.
Oh, well, yeah, well, so there you go. Um, where Luis's, like, whole bit where he's, like, telling the story and everything, like, I thought was, like, so cool and so much more interesting than anything Mantis has done. I do think
Mm,
that this is, like, a good matchup because it's, like, the comic relief characters, that's what
mhm.
they serve as. I like
Yeah,
and think about it this way, like, they both also have, like, a cool arc because Mantis is Ego's pet, who is now trying to figure out how to not be just like a servant for someone.
yeah,
She's a part of a team now, which is interesting to watch, but we don't get that. We don't really see that of her because she's just there for comedy, like that's all
yeah,
they're using her as, where we
yeah.
could really see this good growth in her.
Yeah, I do think she is underutilized in Infinity War and Endgame,
Yeah.
especially Endgame because she's barely in it. But I don't know. I just feel like I get a lot more from her in Guardians 2 overall than I do in Luis, just because Luis has good moments. But like
Mhm.
overall, I like Mantis's arc in Guardians 2 better. But this is all you. We can go to coin flip if you want.
Where like Luis is arc, he goes from being a criminal to running a business with Scott Lang, and like that you kind of have to appreciate. And the three of them are just hilarious. I don't know the other two's names, the Russian guy and the other guy. I don't know their names, but they're just
Yeah,
all so funny, especially in Ant-Man 2, Ant-Man and the Wasp, when they're talking about like ghosts and the Russian guy is like Biblyaga or like whatever the name is.
Baba Yaga. Yeah,
Oh, Baba Yaga. It's just it's hilarious. Some hilarious
yeah.
comedy there. I think we should do a coin flip,
I was gonna say,
to
I
be
think I know
honest.
where you're at. You're at the Luis train. If he makes it, I won't be upset. But Siri, flip a coin.
I can't see. Heads. All right.
It's
All
head,
right.
so it's Mantis.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
it happens. Luis is great, but again, like I've never been as hot on him as others have. But we'll see how much of a chance Mantis actually has. So that's our first round. Now we're diving into the second round. It's going to be a long one, but put us at like 1.5, 2 speed or whatever. Get through quicker. All right. Here's our second round. We're starting off with a 16 seed Peggy Carter against an 8 seed Ancient One. What are your thoughts, Kels?
I mean, love Peggy Carter.
Oh.
But
okay.
She's just there to be Steve's girlfriend and like the love of Steve's life. Like you appreciate her because like she's a woman in the military in the 40s and she takes the gun and she just shoots at the shield and she's like, "Huh, looks like it works." And like she has all these like nice moments and like she's a woman working in this man's world we see like later on during the flashback and the beginning of Ant-Man, she's at that conference room with Howard Stark, Hank Pym and that other guy who turns out to be Hydra. Like, she is a strong woman in a sense. But I just feel like they do her character such an injustice. And she has her own TV show that's not really canon to the MCU, but
I haven't seen it, so I can't.
I haven't seen it either, as much as I love her. Where like the Ancient One is just so powerful and
but we're going by favorite
intriguing.
characters. Yeah. But if that factors into it, then sure. Like who would win in a fight? It's Ancient One. But
I mean it's Ancient One.
The Ancient
I don't know. I'm trying to stay as objective as possible here.
Right.
Is it objective or subjective when you're like
subjective is opinion.
Okay.
Objective is like this is the fact.
I'm trying to like say objective here.
Okay.
I mean, I won't when it comes to Groot.
Well, that's the thing. I think we're weighing our favorites. Like this is the best. Like, because it's not just power, like you said, it's not just arc, but it's performance. It's like their overall being in the universe. I think Peggy Carter is such an amazing through line for Cap for the whole thing. It's not just to service him in one movie; it's to service his whole journey.
But it's just to service him. Like she doesn't have her own arc.
Oh. But in First Avenger, she has a great arc. Because it's not just about like the rest of the MCU. It's like I gotta, it's all about Peggy. But here it's like she is more of a character in First Avenger. I don't know. Now you're making me think Ancient One.
And then like Ancient One's cool because then you find out, she was like messing with the dark magic. Like, she did try to like take some of Dormammu's power, and then she was like, yeah, and I didn't like it, so I didn't keep doing it. And that's like something that like sets up the whole villain for the next Doctor Strange movie, Mordo. Once he finds that out about the Ancient One, like he's crushed. Like, because we think that she's like that moral compass character, kind of like I was saying with Vision and Odin, like where she doesn't need to be changed, where she's like, is the way that she is because it's like, the correct way, where she's like now being the moral compass for other characters type of thing.
It seems like you're leaning Ancient One. Peggy has more of an effect on me for the overall story, but in their own, we're looking at just First Avenger and Doctor Strange, where I think I want a coin flip.
We can coin flip it.
Okay.
I feel comfortable doing that.
Higher seed Ancient One will be heads. Peggy Carter will be tails. Siri, flip a coin. Okay. Ancient One wins. It's heads.
Okay.
So it's a higher seed. So 8 is higher than 16.
That was tough. Peggy? I didn't like that. now I'm kind of like disappointed that it's not Peggy.
Do you want to go back to Peggy? I'd love that.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm sticking with the Ancient One. I'm sticking with my guns.
Okay. All right. Next is the 12 seed. That's a typo. 12 seed Wong and the 4 seed Natasha Romanoff.
Natasha.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm sorry, Wong. You were great, but
it was fun while it lasted.
Yeah.
But
next one. Some of these conversations will be more in depth than others. That one wasn't. Number 6 seed Jimmy Woo, 14 seed Gamora. This is a little tougher because it's like the standout scene stealer or like one of the best characters in the MCU. Like one of them is obviously one of the best characters, but one of them is like a scene stealer. And that's tough. Let me know what you think.
I think it's got to be Gamora.
I think so too. As much as I love Jimmy Woo,
I just love her. Like Zoe Saldana is like just so good at what she does. She's so
Zoe
good at
Saldana.
She's so good at being an alien.
Well, the thing is, she's been in so many like huge sci-fi movies. Like I think a lot of people don't realize She was in Star Trek, all 3 of those movies. She
Mm-hmm.
was in Avatar, the highest grossing film until Endgame came out, which she's also in. You know, like
Yeah.
she is a moneymaker. If you have Zoe Saldana in your movie, you are gonna get box office. Like,
Yeah.
sorry. I want her to be in a Star Wars. I want her to be in a DC movie. I want to see her do everything. All right. 7 seed Groot, 2 seed Hope. I don't think this is a question either, but
Okay, it's Groot, right?
yeah, it's Groot.
Okay, cool.
That see those last 3 matchups were easy. That's the thing. Like sometimes we'll have easy matchups, sometimes we'll have hard ones. Speaking of something that might be another easy one, M'Baku versus Tony Stark.
Okay, Tony.
Yeah, it's Tony. We're just gonna
Yeah.
fly through some of these because it's easy. This one you might have other thoughts on, but Pepper Potts, the 5 seed, versus Bruce Banner, the 4 seed. What are you thinking there?
This is tough for me. This is a tough
I know it's
one.
tough for you. It's easy for me. So this is basically just like, are you giving it to Bruce or are you gonna coin flip it? I will hear out if Bruce makes it against Tony. Like I will hear it out, that argument, and I'll weigh that. But right now I'm still in the Bruce train.
I don't think there's anything I could say to make you pick Pepper over Bruce, to be honest.
No, it would
Still.
just be a coin. It would just be a coin flip, and you'd need tails. So it's up to you whether or not you want to go to a coin flip. If you
I would
highly,
like to go to a coin flip, please. I'll take a
you really
coin
like
flip
Pep,
for 500.
you really like Pepper better than Bruce.
I just think she's more entertaining. I
Okay,
think she
even
has
when
a
what about
better arc.
Ragnarok Hulk? Ragnarok Hulk when he's like,
Yeah, that's the best version of Hulk is in Thor Ragnarok because he's, he's Taika Waititi, brought out the comedy in everyone in that film.
okay,
Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, Valkyrie, Jeff Goldblum, like everything about that movie like had a comedic element. Um,
all right, we're flipping a coin.
but
It sounds like you want Pepper.
let me
Is
think.
it to spite Bruce, or do you actually think Pepper's better?
Well, when you say it like that,
Like, talk me through it. Like, what makes Pepper a better
okay,
character?
I
You think?
think
Like,
that
or a more your favorite?
I can get behind Bruce Banner being better than Pepper Potts.
So
We
you don't
can
want to coin flip it?
we can give it to Bruce.
Wow. Okay, you said it, not me. I was scared for a sec. But you know what? It's opinion. That's your opinion. All right. Ned at 11, Rocket 14. This might be tough for you because these are like 2 of your favorite movies, side characters going up against each other.
Yep.
Do you want to hear my side first? And then,
I mean, my mind's pretty made up. So
it is okay.
if you have a debate, like I don't
I'm
know
going
who
Rocket just because
I'm
I think
going
he's
Rocket as
okay.
well.
Yeah, I just think he's a better overall character. Ned is a good sidekick, but not necessarily like, you can't build a whole movie around Ned, but I feel like you could do a Rocket and Groot movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
This next one's interesting. 7 seed Thor, 2 seed Yondu. We haven't talked about Thor really because the first round was such a sweep against MJ. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I feel like we gotta go Thor, right? But like,
yeah,
at the
I'll be
same
honest.
time, Thor is tricky because we kind of can't. I mean, he doesn't really. It feels like he doesn't really grow or learn until Endgame. Like you're only gonna understand this if you're into Harry Potter. But like Thor is like the epitome of a Gryffindor in my eyes because he does everything for like praise. He's brave. He's the run in without a plan kind of guy. He's like, I'm gonna kick down the door and like use brute force to get what I want. Like he's just like that kind of reckless character that we see like time and time again. We don't really see his battle whatever change. I mean, he goes through a lot of development in Thor Ragnarok after he loses the hammer and has to like figure out how to take down Hela without it, and have the whole scene with his father where he's like, what are you, the god of hammers? No, you're the god of thunder. So he really doesn't go through a lot of growth until like very later on.
I agree.
It takes him until his third movie to grow.
I think early first and second phase Thor is kind of the same. It's very much like a caricature of this type of like kind of like stoic but also like doofusy kind of guy. Yondu, I think in 2 movies already has such a cool growth and arc, and he's such a cool, unique personality. Thor, again, it takes a while, but when his arc does kick in Ragnarok, going into Infinity War, especially Infinity War with Loki's death and Heimdall's death, and then like having to like basically start anew with the new axe, and then an Endgame, seeing how his trauma with Thanos, and even then killing him, how he still goes to that state where he goes all Big Lebowski and like can't even like, it kind of throws his life away in a way. Like that's really powerful. It's really weighing like whether or not the early Thor is enough to take him out of this matchup, or if the later Thor is
enough to save him.
Yeah, I do think it is Thor, but I do think it's a closer matchup than one would believe between these two.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay,
I
cool.
mean, yeah.
That's a cool second round matchup too, a third round matchup, which we'll get to. All right, moving down here. Okoye, 16 seed versus Bucky Barnes, the 9 seed. I know we gave a lot of praises to Okoye, and I was on Nick Fury's team this time. Also a tough battle, I think. I know maybe not as much for you. Where are you leaning?
I'm definitely leaning towards Bucky. I won't lie.
Yeah,
wait, are you not?
Well, here's the thing. Bucky has an interesting character arc, and I like him a lot, but I think his like quiet, like kind of brooding, like mysterious kind of vibe works, but I think Okoye, I just like her character more for some reason. I just like am more intrigued. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I think Bucky's kind of where I'm with like Sam, in the fact that like it wasn't until Falcon and the Winter Soldier where I really like started loving Bucky. Before that, it was always like it's a very interesting character, but it was more about his function in the overall plot with Cap and Tony than it was Bucky for Bucky. And I think this series was really good about giving Bucky that like redemption and like really making him like deal with his past trauma. Whereas I think the other movies didn't really necessarily dive into that, just because you didn't have the time to. Here's the thing. I will go Bucky because I do think he is more important to the overall story, and I do like him a lot as a character. But I do think Okoye gives him a good run for his money. I like Okoye a lot too. But I'm going Bucky.
I can see it.
Yeah, I'm going Bucky. All right. Corgan Meek versus Everett Ross. What do you think?
These are two really beloved characters of mine. I love
Comedic
Martin
reliefs,
Freeman.
yeah.
I love Corgan Meek. I love that Korg is Taika Waititi. Meek, I don't think has an actor credit because he doesn't speak. I just love how he's like hands that are like made of knives. Meek, and then he's like, "Oh, Meek's dead. Stepped on him on the bridge. I've just been carrying him around because I feel so bad." Oh God, this is tough.
I'm leaning a certain way. Can I talk it through?
I think I'm leaning a certain way too, but you can say what you want.
I think Black Panther is so good and rich and dark, and like it's got a lot more weight than a typical Marvel movie. And you need Everett Ross as that comedic relief. Otherwise, it might be a little too dense and heavy. Whereas Thor Ragnarok, I think, has a lot of like, it already is such like this high fun natured, like kind of like comedy type thing where like you already have Jeff Goldblum to do a lot of the weight for you. You already have Thor himself cracking jokes. Hulk is like kind of your more serious but also funny guy. Loki's doing stuff. Valkyrie. Korg and Meek, while comedic and comedic relief, I feel like they are less essential to the plot of Thor Ragnarok than Everett Ross is in Black Panther in terms of like being a comedic relief. As personalities, I'd rather watch Korg and Meek scenes, but I think in terms of their stories and their actual movies, I think Everett Ross stands out more as a comedic relief for me than Korg and Meek do.
You know what, Dill? You sold me. I was leaning more towards Korg and Meek, but after hearing what you said, we can give it to Everett Ross.
Wow, that's an upset because I didn't even think Everett Ross would make it through the first round. I thought you were going to fight for Maria Hill. So let's go.
Why? Why would I?
I don't know, because she's been in it forever. All right, number 16, another Captain Marvel matchup. Here we go. 6 Goose, 14 Monica Rambeau.
I mean, it's got to be Monica, right?
Does it?
Oh, okay. You want to fight for Goose?
I just think Goose is like Yeah, that's my like animal bias coming through. It's Monica, just because
Okay.
I think Monica
My
Monica
animal
has more
bias.
substance and is gonna be like a huge character. I know as Spectrum. So yeah, okay, we'll go Monica. But Goose, yeah, Monica's yeah. Okay, whew, okay.
Okay, cool.
Number 10, T'Challa versus number 2, Valkyrie. Ooh, this
This
one
hurts.
I
This
will say
hurts.
I have to separate Chadwick from my mind because I do think when I saw Black Panther, he was not the standout to me. It was as a performance, he was great, but it was Killmonger who stood out the most to me.
Right.
Where I'm like, he wasn't like boring, but he was just a very like normal guy. You know, he had a lot of stuff going on, but you know, he was just like this really noble, really almost kind of like what you said with Thor. He's the Gryffindor almost. Um, where it comes across a tad one note at times, but then there are times where I'm like, woof, like he's
Yeah.
really digging deep and
He's
digging
kind of
in.
like, yeah, T'Challa's kind of like the straight man that you need
Hmm.
for all
Yeah,
of the other characters to kind of
right,
operate around, like
exactly.
Shuri, Okoye, Killmonger, etc.
Ross, yeah.
Exactly.
Um, Valkyrie is interesting because she is so different from a lot of these women in this MCU, and
Yeah.
that's what makes her so awesome. But at the same time, like I said, you know, you've got so many great characters in Ragnarok already that Valkyrie adds to it, but she's not the standout to me. And maybe that's just because I'm a Hulk guy,
Mm.
but I think that's a movie that really does a good job with its heroes. That the side characters, with or without them, it's still great. Whereas T'Challa, I think I'm still leaning T'Challa just because his overall impact on the MCU and just culturally, just this black
Mhm.
superhero, the first black superhero that like kids really have been able to like look up to and see themselves as. Like I really am leaning toward him, but this is a tough
Mhm.
matchup, Kels. Give me your lowdown
I
while the
mean, I feel
sun
like you
blares on
can't
me.
you can't make the same argument about Korg and Meek that you did for Valkyrie, I feel, because, like, I feel like those characters, like Korg and Meek, this version of Hulk. Excuse me, hold on one second.
Yep.
I just feel like a burp coming on. I'm so sorry. Um, like I feel like Korg and Meek, this version of Hulk that we see in Thor Ragnarok, Thor himself, like I feel like all of these characters, like Jeff Goldblum, Bloom especially, like all these characters are like meant to like be inherently funny, you know. Where
Hmm.
I feel like Valkyrie, like her character isn't like written to be funny, like Tessa Thompson, like she brings, like she's able to like bring out the humor in this character, like with the drinking that she does. But that's really like she's kind of
Yeah,
like this cloud of like dark humor almost like in the film. Whereas like
and it
it's like
works. Yeah.
different. It's like a breath of fresh air almost, you know, where like the only reason why we kind of find her character funny is because like, oh, she has this alcoholic problem because of her like traumatic past, like, you know,
Hmm.
where I don't know, I just think her character's so cool and like so entertaining. But like you said, like Black Panther's Black Panther, you know?
Yeah.
Um
I'll let you break the tie, or if we want to go to,
a coin
um,
flip.
yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
I'm not backing down from T'Challa, but I do see how you can make a case for both.
especially cuz you said the thing about him just like being like pretty straight in uh Black Panther, you know, like
Hmm.
T'Challa, and not like sexuality, like, you know, just like very like
Yeah, like the
poised, like
straight
he's a
man. Yeah,
king, you know?
but then
Um,
again, in like Infinity War and Civil War, he's like kind of that cool, quiet. Like he is cool, even though he's a straight man. Like I don't know. It's up to you.
I'm gonna go with Valkyrie, so I think we have to do a coin
Okay,
flip.
great. So heads is Valkyrie,
And
tails is
honestly,
T'Challa.
like no matter what it is, like I'll be content, but I'm
Yeah,
gonna
that's
fight
me
for
too.
Valkyrie.
Okay. Siri, flip a coin. It's heads this time, which means Valkyrie is advancing to the next round.
Wow,
That
the
is an
upset
upset.
I didn't
Even though
see coming.
even though numerically it's not an upset, I think this is an upset. I am not mad, but again, like I thought T'Challa would be at least like a final 8. Like he just made the Sweet 16, didn't make the final 8. All right.
Yeah.
Now for bottom left quadrant. So next we have one of the toughest ones here. 1, Steve Rogers. 9, Wanda Maximoff. I know you're agonizing over this. I'll tell you right now,
Oof.
I have a clear favorite here. And it's Wanda. It's no secret there. If you know
I
me,
have a
it's
clear
Wanda.
favorite too.
And
But
is it Cap?
I mean, Cap has like always been my favorite, and it's because like
Yeah.
he's always stuck to his guns and like been the moral ground and like
Mhm.
has been the person that other people should aspire to be, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, for me, it's like Cap is kind of like Cap you see in the beginning is kind of Cap who you get throughout. And I get he goes through growth, but not to as drastic as a level as Wanda's. Like Wanda, she is a completely new character now than she was originally. And
Yeah.
you get so much richness from her arc. Whereas I feel like Cap, it's like, it's good old Cap. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's
Yeah.
a reason he's the glue. And I think that's important in the Avengers to have that glue. But for me, it's Wanda. 100%. But again, this is all to you. This is all you. You can break the tie with Wanda, or you can go to the coin flip if you think Steve is who you want, and that's fine. Whatever you want.
I think that if we were to do a coin flip and Steve won, I think it would hurt me a little bit because I
Really?
know that Wanda is the stronger overall character.
Well,
So
it's not necessarily strength either. It's
no, I'm not saying like
yeah.
just like a stronger, like just more prevalent, more entertaining, like
Gotcha.
in those aspects goes
Hmm.
through more arcs and different phases where Cap does stay pretty centered within himself
Grounded.
throughout
Yeah.
the thing. Yeah, he's a very grounded character. So
So are you going Wanda?
I think that if Steve won a coin flip, I think that it would pain me a little bit, but it also pains me to give this to Wanda. Oh, this hurts. This hurts so bad, but
What you gonna do?
I think it's ah.
It's
um
tough. It is.
this honestly, this is the noblest loss in history, but I will give it to Wanda.
Wow. So Wanda
Steve would
is
want me to. Steve would
yeah.
say,
I
"Give it
get you.
to the kid."
Yeah.
He would say, "She's just a kid."
Yeah. All right. Our number 5, Nebula versus our 13, Peter Parker. This one is a little tougher. I know, Kelsey, it's hitting me
This
with all
just
these
keeps
zingers.
getting worse for
It's
me.
only gonna get harder. It's only gonna
Oh,
get harder. It's only gonna get harder.
I think I'm going to organ failure upon this match. Okay.
Kelsey, I'll let you speak your thoughts first because I have a clear favorite here. But I don't want to influence your opinion to the point where you feel bad, or I just want you to tell me what you're thinking right
I'm thinking, oh my god, how am I gonna choose between these two?
now.
Oh my god, because like Nebula on the other hand goes through so much, and she like kind of is almost the protagonist of Endgame. Like she's like almost the main character of that
Yeah,
movie. You know,
yeah,
like without her, like there is no 2018 Thanos coming in at the end. You know, like
yep.
she is the reason what happens in Endgame happens. Whereas just like Peter Parker, like he gets dusted and he says, I don't want to go, Mr. Stark. I don't feel so good. And you just your heart breaks and you love him. And I just watched Far From Home literally last night with my mom. It was our last movie of her watch through. We're jumping into WandaVision later tonight.
Nice.
And Tom Holland is just doing such a good job in this role. Like this role was like made for him, you know.
Hmm. Do you want me to
Oh.
tell you where I'm coming from?
Yes, please,
I
please.
think Nebula has a fascinating arc, but we didn't know we were going to get Spider-Man in the MCU because Sony had the rights. They got
Mhm.
the rights. They had one shot, and I think they nailed it. And while he is
Mm.
not my favorite Peter Parker, he's not my least favorite, but he is, I think, perfect for this role. I think this is a unique side of Peter Parker we haven't seen in other installments. You know, it is a younger Peter Parker. I think he is a lot of that heart. Um, in his own movies, I think I have more issues with the movies themselves than him in the movies. I think he's always strong. Whereas Nebula, I like her, but again, I didn't start liking her a lot till Infinity
Mhm.
War. I liked her a little bit in Guardians too, but I was still kind of warming up to her. Whereas Peter, just from his first moments, I mean, he is my favorite part of Civil War. Is that reveal and him when he shows up
Mm.
to battle. So
Okay.
I'm Peter 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
It's Peter.
cool. All
But
right,
that
that
was
was
tough.
tough for you.
That was
Yeah.
tough. I combined the words hard and tough and said huff.
I wonder if this one will be
together.
tough for you. 6-seed Vision versus 3-seed Captain Marvel.
Ooh.
This is tough because you
Ooh.
have someone who's more recent in the overall zeitgeist of Marvel. You know what we're talking about,
Mhm.
but then one that is, I think, criminally underrated. Even though there's no reason she should be, because she's freaking powerful. She's played by an Oscar-winning actress, and
Mhm.
I think the movie's pretty good too. So, where are you leaning here?
I mean, Carol is just so new. You know, we've only seen her in one standalone
Right.
film. We got a taste of her in Endgame. Um, so my heart is kind of unfairly with Vision just because we've known him longer.
And he's
And
fresher.
we just went through WandaVision with
Right.
him. You know, and he's like the
Mhm.
whole reason why Wanda is the way that she is.
Yeah. See, I'm leaning Captain Marvel just because
Wow, I did
I
not see this coming.
she's first off, I love her fighting style. I just think she's powerful and just
Yeah,
overall
she's a
really,
baddie.
really badass. But also, I love her journey. I think it's great to see her kind of find herself and like not necessarily know the answers, but also like still standing up for herself when she needs to. And I just like her journey a lot. Whereas Vision, it's like
Mm,
kind of with that Cap thing. It's like you know what you're getting from Vision. He grows, of course. There's so many layers to Vision, but at the same time, it's like you're kind of when you're introduced to Jarvis and Vision, opposed to when you end with Jarvis and Vision, like it's always Vision. Like as we know, like
right,
it's
right.
Vision.
It's the
And
same
again,
argument with Cap.
I just it's tough. I'm going Captain Marvel though. I just like her character more. I like her arc. I love what she stands for in the MCU, and I think a lot of that was swayed honestly by you in your
Oh
video.
my god.
Uh, just the whole feminism themes in that. Are you
Yeah.
crying?
No, no, no. A bug just flew in my face, and I was like, "Oh,
I
sorry."
was like, I know Cap versus Wanda made you cry, but I didn't know
You know
this one.
what? Cap.
It
We can give it to Captain Marvel. We
wow.
can give it
Okay,
to
cool.
Carol Danvers.
Yeah, we love
I'm
Vision.
I'm okay with that.
All right. Here's one that I don't know how it's gonna go. Sam Wilson, the 10 seed against Mantis, the 2 seed. I am thinking Sam.
I'm thinking Sam as well.
Okay, so yeah, Mantis is great, but I think Sam, he is Captain America now. Isn't it crazy though, Kels, that Captain America 1.0 did not make it to the Elite Eight, but Sam Wilson did. So just
Yeah,
goes
that
to
is
show
crazy.
the bracket. That's how it stacks up. All right, we are now in the Elite. No, sorry, this is not the Elite Eight. This is the Sweet 16. So he went from 32 to 16. So Cap didn't even make the Sweet 16, but this Cap
Wow.
did. So here's our Sweet 16. We've got, I'm just going to recap it: Ancient One, Black Widow, Gamora, Groot, Wanda, Peter Parker, Captain Marvel, Sam Wilson, Tony Stark, Bruce Banner, Rocket Raccoon, Thor, Bucky, Everett Ross, Monica Rambeau, and Valkyrie. That is our Elite,
Wow.
or our Sweet 16. Now we are going to
Some
make up the Elite Eight, starting with the Ancient One, the 8 seed, against Natasha Romanoff, the 4 seed. Is this a tough battle for you?
No. There is an obvious choice. It is obviously the Ancient One. No, I'm joking. It's Nat.
See, I was willing to hear you out because I was leaning,
Oh
like,
my
in terms
god,
of
no.
overall.
It is Natasha Romanoff. Are
Yeah,
you out of your mind?
I do think Black Widow, the movie, will make her more of a main character than she's been. She always felt like she was kind of the supporting. She never got to really break through for me, just because I think the writers didn't allow her to. But I do think she
Mhm.
is iconic and notable there. All right,
Yeah.
who will be facing off against uh, Natasha in the Elite Eight? Will it be the 14 seed Gamora or the 7 seed Groot? I know where you're leaning,
Fuck.
but let me talk it out for you. Gamora has a lot more dramatic layers to her
Mhm.
story. Groot is more of the enjoyable character, but I don't think either is wrong. I think they both have valid arguments. I think Groot is more memorable. Groot
Mhm.
tugs at our heartstrings more, but Gamora, I think, being such an integral part of Infinity War, tugged at our heartstrings even more. I do have a favorite here. I will let you say your piece before I let you know what I'm thinking. But go ahead.
I mean, we get adult Groot in Guardians 1, and his whole thing is to be kind of the glue, like the literal glue that uses his body to engulf his newfound family
Hmm.
and sacrifice himself so that his family can live. And
Mhm.
then in Guardians 2, we see a Groot 2.0 who is baby Groot.
And it's
And
technically his son, right? It's not him.
yeah, I guess it's an
Yeah,
offspring
gotcha.
of the original Groot. So
But
his
we're talking
son,
about him as the same.
yeah. So, and then we just have baby Groot, who is endlessly entertaining, who I don't think we'll ever stop wanting to see more of, even though now he's a teenager. And even when he's a teenager, he still is making, not fatal sacrifices, but, sacrifices by,
His arm.
making his arm Stormbreaker and giving his all in a sense that way. Like that's the only reason why we have him in Infinity War, and then he dusts, and him dusting is the whole driving force for Rocket. So
I don't think teenage Groot is as memorable as Big Groot or Little Groot.
yeah, no, for
Um,
sure.
but I think Groot as a whole for me is a better character. Even though Gamora goes through more arc wise, I think Groot himself is just more memorable, is more iconic to Marvel, and is just my favorite of the two. So I would go Groot.
Wow. I
What?
mean, like, I don't know. I thought you were gonna argue for Gamora like a little
No,
bit.
I'm not. I mean, I did. I do think I gave my pros and cons, but I
I
think it's
still
Groot.
think that, like, Gamora is, like, the coolest because, like, her f she never loses, She's a trained weapon of destruction, and, like, she very rarely loses. Sh
How do you feel about her in Endgame as like 2014 Gamora? Does that take away for you, or does that help?
Yeah, that takes it away for me because it's like, what is she gonna do now? She's gonna go through all that, like, growth again, like, we're gonna have to watch her, or is she just gonna be
Yeah.
like, I don't know what's gonna happen with Gamora, and that kind of upsets me that, she had to be the sacrificial lamb for
Yeah.
Thanos. Um,
What are you thinking? If you want to go to a coin flip, we can.
l let's go Groot, let's go Groot.
Groot. Okay. So I was wondering if we were gonna get a Gamora versus Black Widow face off since they were both thrown off for the Soul Stone, but I guess we won't.
Honestly, I'm fine with Groot losing against Nat. But, we'll get
We're
there
not
when we
there
get
yet.
there.
We're,
That I
we
know,
are
but
not there
that's
yet.
that's literally why I said Groot, was because I was like, "You know what? I'm okay with taking the L for Groot if we choose Natasha in, like,
All right.
during the final 4 round."
So, who's gonna make the Elite Eight here? Tony Stark, the 9 seed, versus Bruce Banner, the 4 seed. You know I won't back down, but Tony Stark is Tony Stark. He is iconic, and it's hard to like
Yeah,
go pick anyone against him. He
yeah.
is the face of the MCU. But as a character, I love the fact that Hulk has this other being that he has to control. It's like the Jekyll and Hyde almost, and he finds that hybrid, and I love that. I just love that multi-layered uh, part of him. Whereas Tony goes through some growth too, but I'm leaning toward Bruce just because I have a personal love for him. He's my favorite.
Mhm.
But I'm willing to hear what you have to say. I think I know where you're going.
I mean, it's Tony for me,
Okay.
just 'cause
Try to sell me before we go to a coin flip if you want. If you
I
want to go to a coin
mean,
flip, we could just go to one, but let me know.
it's Tony Stark, man, like, within every movie, we see a new layer to him, like,
Hmm.
he is constantly evolving. It's not like he's this, one-hit wonder, like, it never really changes, like, his personality or his wittiness or anything like that. Like, we still get, like, some good old RDJ mannerisms and things like that, but his character of Tony Stark is constantly evolving from the get-go, right from Iron Man 1. He is already rethinking the way he, is a weapons dealer for the military. He shuts that down immediately. He switches to, arc technology
Yeah.
and completely remodels Stark Industry and what it stands for right from the get go. Then Iron Man 2, I know is not your favorite. Iron Man 3, we get to explore this,
Yeah.
like, this, he's battling with this anxiety, this mental illness from the Battle of New York that we never thought, like, the very powerful, smart, Tony Stark would never have to deal with something as, trivial as anxiety. But,
Yeah.
he has it, and he deals with that great. And that's another obstacle he has to get over. And
Yeah.
in Avengers 2, he creates his own monsters. He creates his own monster yet again by creating Ultron. That's It's like, I just think that there's an obvious choice here, and I think it's got to be Tony. And ultimately, like, there's a reason why he snaps is because, I feel like a lot, if you just look at the Avengers movies, Avengers, Age of Ultron, Infinity War, Endgame, it's like they are all so influential to the decisions that he makes in Endgame, because he has the whole argument with Cap where he was like, you wouldn't be the man to let the guy crawl over you to for you to lay down on the wire. And he's like, well, I think I would just cut the wire. When at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, where he has to be the man to let the others crawl over him, he does it,
Yeah. All right. Because you sacrificed Cap for Wanda, and because you sacrificed Pietro for Sam, and even Vision for Captain Marvel, like, you've had to like give in a lot. So I will give it to Tony. I will. I don't want to have to give it to a coin flip, just because I agree. Tony's so influential, and you can't have the MCU without him. As much as Bruce Banner is my personal favorite character in the MCU, I think that's fair. Here's a toughie. Rocket versus Thor.
The duo from Endgame we didn't know we needed.
This is tough for me. I'm leaning a certain way. I think both of them hit their stride the most in Infinity War. Especially with them together, there's a lot of awesome moments with the two of them, of Thor kind of finding himself and Rocket kind of being that support for him. But I think Thor in Endgame, where you have that scene where he gets his revenge on Thanos, and then he gets to point of his lowest, and then he sees his mom, and then he's back on the redemption arc, and then he gets excited when Cap holds Mjolnir. I think that is the perfect way to propel Thor into the future. I am Thor for this battle.
I think I'm leaning towards Rocket. I just think he's a more interesting character.
Fair. And if we're factoring performance, I like both of them a lot too, but I think Thor also Chris Hemsworth, but I'm totally fine with Rocket being a coin flip. I'm not fine with Rocket going forward. I'm fine with either going forward, but I'm going to coin flip it. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Siri, flip a coin.
People listening are probably like, what is she thinking?
It's heads. So
it's Thor.
Advance. So 7
all right.
14, yeah.
I'll take that. That's
and
fine.
That'll be an interesting Elite 8 matchup. All right, here we go. A Bucky Barnes 9 seed, Everett Ross 13.
Bucky Barnes.
Yeah, I think Everett has had a fun ride, making some upsets against Maria Hill and even Corgan Meek. But I do think Bucky wins this one. Even though I was kind of willing to put Okoye over Bucky, I think Bucky wins that one. All right. Next is Monica Rambeau versus Valkyrie. Interesting matchup. I like this matchup.
Super interesting.
What are you thinking?
I mean, both very powerful women that we can appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
Two female characters that I feel like are written super well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're not really there to serve as like someone's significant other,
Right.
I
do think we get a little bit more from Monica just with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think we've gotten a little bit more with Monica than we did with Valkyrie in just Ragnarok.
Yeah. I think we get more screen time, definitely, from Monica.
But more of an arc, I think, too, because also she loses her mom and coming off of her being a kid and growing up with this. But
yeah, that's true. That's true. But I was going to say, I feel like we get more of an arc with Valkyrie because she starts as like this, like, I'm a lone wolf drunk type of person to fighting not only in Thor Ragnarok, but then fighting again in Endgame.
I will say, in Endgame, she has one of the most memorable fighting styles and moments, like with that Pegasus, and then her like kind of unscaling that one monster. That's cool. I think she's a cooler fighter, but I don't know. I think Monica. I think it's recency bias too, just having seen Monica just now in this journey. Are you leaning Valkyrie?
I'm going Valkyrie on this one.
All right, I'll go Valkyrie with you, just because I do think she does. I think this is about as even as I could make it, and I don't want to necessarily go to a coin flip just because I'm fine with either one. All right.
Yeah.
This is where it gets tough.
Is this the
Wanda
final?
Maximoff.
No, this is final still 4.
No, we got to fill out our final 8 still. So this is the Sweet 16 still. This is number 9 seed Wanda Maximoff versus 13 seed Peter Parker.
Oh, okay. Right.
We're down in the bottom left now.
Yes.
Is this tough for you, or is this, what are you thinking? Because the past two with both of them were tough. Is this even tougher now,
Um,
or do you have a favorite? Because I have a favorite.
if you asked me to save if they were both drowning, I had one life vest.
I guess
And
that's a good way to do it.
I would give it to Peter. I would
All
give
right,
the life.
we're flipping a coin.
Okay.
I love Wanda's character. I love Peter too, but I think if we're looking at overall, I'm going with Wanda. So it's gonna be a good
No,
win,
no,
bad loss. I don't
no. We
what
don't have to. We don't have to flip a coin, because
really.
this is another situation where, like, I feel like if that coin flips and Peter gets the win, I'm gonna be like slightly disappointed. I'm gonna be like,
Wow,
oh, but Wanda clearly deserves it, you know.
this
So
is
as
our
much as
favorites. If you wanna campaign for Peter, you can.
I can't. Peter, no, Peter's not winning against Wanda. It's Wanda.
Wow.
It's Wanda.
Okay, I was surprised. I thought we'd have the coin flip for that. What about this one? Captain Marvel, number 3 seed versus Sam Wilson, number 10 seed. I don't know. I'm not sure. This is like my Wanda Peter. Like, I don't know. One of these is more recent because of Falcon and Winter Soldier, that like it's fresher on my mind. These
Hmm.
are two of my top 5 characters, so I can't really weigh this. I mean, it sucks because Wanda had to face off against Drax already. That's my 2 and my 3. I just lost my 1 with Mark Ruffalo as Hulk, and now this is my 4 and 5. So I don't know.
Yeah. Should we just flip it? Because I don't know either.
Well, do I
Okay,
really
so
want?
you clearly are leaning away then if you're afraid the coin flip's gonna not pick someone. So who is it?
I'm leaning toward Captain Marvel just because I feel like people give her shit. But they also give
Mm.
Sam shit. Both
Mm.
of these characters were given shit when they didn't need to be given shit. And I
Uh-huh.
think Sam got
Uh-huh.
his show to prove why he is legit. Whereas
Uh-huh.
Captain Marvel, she got her movie, but people still don't take her seriously. And I just,
Mhm.
when she sweeps in an Endgame, it's so cool. I'm Captain Marvel, Team Captain Marvel. I love Sam, but I'm Team Captain Marvel. It's Cap versus Cap, so you get to decide, Kels. Or you can go to the coin flip.
I'm fine going Captain Marvel.
Wow.
I
Okay.
respect that
All
choice.
right. So our this is now our Elite Eight. We have Natasha, Groot, Wanda, Captain Marvel, Valkyrie, Bucky, Thor, and Tony. 4 women, 4 men, even split. Look how we did that. We did
Wow.
a good job. But we are now going to make our final 4. So this is our first matchup here. Is Natasha Romanoff the 4 seed against Groot the 7 seed? Now earlier you said you're fine seeing Groot lose to Black Widow, but you're not fine seeing Gamora lose. Like, what was that all about? Are you leaning Black Widow here?
I think I am. I
Wow.
I think I am. Come on. It's Black Widow. She's gone through so much. I feel like
She
she's
has, but I always feel like she's this always going to be a supporting character. Of course, we're seeing a Black Widow movie coming, but I feel like even in Endgame, her moment was big. But then right after that, you have that huge battle that by the end, no one's leaving that movie thinking, "Wow, rest in peace, Natasha." They're all saying, "Rest in peace, Tony." And I
right.
do think that's just, again, it's not on her, but
Well,
again, it's
because
like
it might not be a serious rest in peace. They might have done that purposefully, so we didn't feel like we had to mourn Natasha the way that we clearly did need to mourn Tony. Because Tony's
right,
done, he's gone.
but
Whereas with
say
Natasha, we don't know.
But say the world ended after Endgame. That's the
Okay.
last we're gonna get. Like, we have to treat every movie on their own, not like, oh well, we'll get to see more soon. I just think Groot is like the heart and soul of the Guardians, and the Guardians I think is the best group of characters in this MCU. Like,
Mhm.
you have 4 legitimate chances to win this whole bracket for me with Gamora, Groot, Rocket, and Drax. Like, I think all 4 are deserving of going far, and I just think this is our last representative of the Guardians as a whole. So I
I
think
know,
as
but
Groot, like I can't believe I'm fighting you on Groot. Like, I can't believe
listen,
I'm fighting for
I told
Groot.
you I'm trying to keep this objective because obviously, like, he's my whole heart and soul, but like Natasha, like, she was like, even though she hasn't gotten her own film until this year, she was
Maybe.
like the first like prominent female to be involved in the MCU. I feel like
Yeah.
she, we know a little bit of her past, of her growing up to be that trained assassin like person that Gamora was trained into by Thanos. You know, she was trained into a Russian spy who Clint decided to save. She made a whole like 360 with her life, started working for Shield, you know. She just has so many skills, you know. She's like brilliant. She knows multiple languages. She
Yeah.
has like such a cool fighting style. Like it's so like fluid and
Yeah.
just is like she just has this she's just a badass. Like we meet her in Iron Man 2 and we think that she's just gonna, you know, like that she's just the eye candy for
Right.
Tony Stark to like admire and like gawk at the whole film. And she just completely like transforms into like this super powerful woman. Like I can't ignore her arc because and then like in Winter Soldier, like even though she's fighting alongside Cap, like she's still on her own mission in that movie.
Right.
Like she always has her
Yeah.
own like story like with her
Mhm.
where she's not just somebody's girlfriend or sidekick or whatever, you know. And then like in Endgame, like she makes the sacrificial play because like Rocket, like the Guardians are Rocket's family.
Mhm.
Nat has found a family in the Avengers, and she spends the 5 years. She's like the only one left who spends the 5 years in Endgame trying to get her family back together. It's her main mission that whole movie, and like
Yeah.
she's the heart. Like Groot is the heart and soul of
Yeah.
Guardians. She's the heart and soul of the Avengers.
It's just so tough. I think we're comparing like apples and oranges here. Do you want to coin flip it?
We can coin flip it.
I really love Groot, and
I
know it's
cannot believe
selfish,
you're
but
not with me with Natasha.
I honestly, of this whole bracket, this is probably the
Because
weakest
I'll be
quarter.
frank, like if Groot wins the coin flip, like I'll be a little mad.
Okay.
Fine, we'll do the coin flip.
Siri, flip a coin. It's tails. So Groot is advancing.
Oh my god.
What? Yeah, it's just surprising to me because it's like your favorite. I don't know.
I
right.
just feel like she just has contributed. Am I okay? Contributed so much more. Like she is like the trailblazer for women in the MCU, and
I like I said, it's gonna get tough as we go along. You know what I
it's
mean?
fine. It can be Groot.
It's gonna get tougher as we go. You know. All right.
It can be Groot. It can be Groot.
Well, it is.
I'm moving on.
All right. The 7 seed Thor going up against the 9 seed Tony Stark. Another just impossible matchup. In my eyes.
I was like trying to remember. I'm like, did we advance Thor or Rocket? I literally can't remember. And I cannot believe Thor won over Rocket.
Were you Team Rocket? Did we coin flip that?
I think I was Team Rocket and we did coin flip and he did win. This is bullshit. I hate the coin flip. It's against me.
It's not. I mean, the first coin flip, I think it went against me, right?
Yeah, it did.
What was it? Was it
I don't remember. Please, I don't remember if we picked Rocket over Thor and that happened like 5 minutes ago.
Oh, it was oh no, it wasn't. I don't know. Anyway,
Tony. It's Tony. Tony's my final vote.
I think because Thor doesn't become he becomes a well-rounded character, I think, after Dark World, Ragnarok onwards. I think Iron Man is constantly growing.
Mm-hmm.
I would be Team Thor here, but because I know the last round was really rough and tough, and I really wanted Groot, I will say Tony Stark for this.
Oh, thank you for that pity vote, Dill.
Well, here's a tough one, or is it? Number 9, Bucky Barnes versus number 2, Valkyrie. What is your thought?
This
one to me
Final
is a little
Four.
Easier.
Can I just say, like,
this isn't even the Final Four yet. We're not even at the Final Four.
No, I know, but like the way the Final Four is like going with the winners, is in a way I would have never expected. Let me tell you, this is very unexpected for me.
What are you thinking?
Bucky.
Yeah, I'm going Bucky as well.
Okay, cool.
In the first, listen, I was willing to advance Bucky every round. The one round where I thought maybe someone would rival him was Okoye, just because I love Okoye. But ever since then, like Ross, Valkyrie, I think he's just stronger than both of them. So now we get to this last matchup of the Elite Eight going into the Final Four. 2 amazing ladies in the MCU. Number 9, Wanda Maximoff. Number 3, Captain Marvel.
Oh, this one hurts.
I know. You know what, Kels?
You
You
have
got
been
you got Tony. I got Groot. So this one, uh, and we both picked Bucky.
you
So
have been like you've been bucking for these two women the entire time, and now they're up against one another.
I
So,
know. So my
what are
heart's
you
breaking more than
thinking,
yours.
Dill?
Well, I haven't been like bucking. Like I really think she deserved to. I think Wanda. Let's look at her path. She beat She beat Drax, which was already tough for me. She beat
Yeah.
Steve Rogers, which was tough for me, and she beat Peter Parker, which is tough for me. Like those are three huge characters she beat to get here. That's Drax, Steve Rogers, and Peter Parker. Like three of my top 20 at least. Three of my top 10 maybe. And then Captain Marvel. She beat Talos, which is a pretty easy victory. She beat Vision by a slim margin. She beat Sam Wilson by a slim margin. But I mean, this is a stacked side of the bracket. This bottom left corner, it's
Mhm.
deadly. It's like, murderer's row. Okay,
I'm
I,
leaning away.
I, you're leaning away from who?
No, I'm leaning, like, towards
Oh,
someone, I mean. Like, I
okay,
meant not, like, away, like, away.
okay. I'm leaning Wanda
Uh,
because I just love her arc. I just think she is such a fascinating character. I think Captain Marvel we just haven't gotten enough time for, but I do
mhm.
think she's still an amazing presence. But I'm gonna go Wanda.
I'm going Wanda as well.
Okay, cool. All right, so now we are at our final four.
What a bizarre Final Four.
Let me just zoom out a little bit just so we can see them all. I don't think we
Damn.
can see them all. All right, so it's Groot versus Wanda and then Tony versus Bucky. Is there a harder matchup you think, or you think there's like are they both tough? There we go.
Well, okay, so right now we're choosing between Wanda and Groot.
Well, I'm saying if this is a tougher matchup than Tony and Bucky, we could do Tony and Bucky first.
I think that I I think that Tony and Bucky is the harder matchup.
Interesting.
Just
Okay.
because that one I hesitate a little bit to say who should win, where Wanda and Groot, it's kind of like a no-brainer because I thought Groot should have like lost in the last round.
The interesting thing is, like, Groot is a favorite of both of ours to some extent, even more so you, but I do think here I'd go Wanda. Are you going Wanda?
I'm going Wanda as well.
Wow, so Wanda Maximoff makes the finals.
If it was Wanda and Nat,
I'm
I wouldn't have known what to do with myself.
wow, okay, yeah.
I cannot believe you dislike Nat as much as
I
you
know
do.
hey, I never said I disliked her. I just
Yeah,
think
but you're acting like it.
no. I just for some reason I just have always wanted more from her character, and that's not on her. I think it's just the writers. I just want more. Like I always feel like she's second in command to like she's never the main focus to me.
Okay.
Even when she dies, it's all about Clint. They try to make it all about Clint, and I just hate that.
Sure.
Even the moments after, like it's all about Hulk and how he's sad about it. It's never about her, and I just want it to be about her. But yeah, Wanda's there. Tony versus Bucky, 1 versus 9. What do we think? I am leaning. I think this is an obvious one for me. I think the Wanda Groot matchup was tougher than this one. This one for me is Tony 100%. I think if you're just overall, I think Tony's arc is better for me. I just like the peaks of Tony and Bucky are both strong, but I think the consistency of Tony's story for me puts him above. And it's funny because I wanted Thor over Tony, I wanted Bruce over Tony, but now when it comes to Bucky and Tony, I want Tony. So
I don't know. I think that they've both gone through like a good amount of stuff.
do you want to talk through the rubric a little bit, maybe, or
The performances, I mean, like RDJ is RDJ.
Yeah,
Like he's
yep.
incomparable. But Sebastian Stan, man, like he killed it in the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
He
Like
did.
I said this during the last episode. Like I always thought that he was a he was a decent actor. Like he never did a bad job in something. But he was also never like the standout. Like for me, like he was the standout in the Falcon and Winter Soldier, just like acting wise. Like his moments really kill me, man. How many stupid decisions have they made? I mean, Bucky's made a shit ton of stupid decisions, but they weren't his fault. He was
Right.
brainwashed. Where like
But
Tony
has too,
built
though.
Ultron,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and then what was the last one? I always forget it. Their
overall arc.
Their
I think
overall
it's
arc.
Tony. I think it's Tony.
Yeah, I think it's Tony too.
So is Tony winning this?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so here we go. Now I can zoom in. Here are our finals. Wanda Maximoff versus Tony Stark. One of them is going to win the whole thing. Do you have a clear favorite right here, or is it tough?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. On the count of 3, let us say our favorite, because I have a clear favorite.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Wanda.
All right. Wanda Maximoff is our winner, is the winner of this bracket. She was the 9 seed. I think she did go up against the hardest path. She beat Drax. She beat Steve Rogers. She beat Peter Parker. She beat Captain Marvel. And she beat Groot and Tony Stark. Like, that is tough.
Yeah.
So she is our victor. That was a long one, but that was a fun one. That was fun.
That was crazy. That went in a direction I did not think it was at all. And I'll prove it to you now by going and getting my my prediction.
So I have my prediction too, and the reason
I've never been more wrong in my life.
This is why I was not fighting for this person for this reason, but I thought, you know what? This is Kelsey's favorite character. She's going to find a way. I thought it was going to be an easy path to get to the Final Four. And then I thought we were going to have the coin flip. And because he was a 7 seed, he was a high seed, I thought Groot would win the whole thing.
Wow.
I thought it would end up being because this is our favorite character. It's not the best character. It's our favorite. So I just thought Groot would be the favorite between both of us that we could both settle on and say, yeah, they're our favorite. So yeah, that was my prediction. I was way off.
That's crazy that you said that. And I tried to keep it like objective. I wasn't just going off who I thought was my best, who I thought like was my favorite, but just who was the best. Even though saying that now, but I thought we were going to land on Cap being the best.
Sam Wilson or Steve Rogers?
Oh, Steve Rogers. Sorry,
Gotcha,
I should have specified.
Yeah.
But
interesting. And he was out in the second round.
Yeah.
So, to our winner. Both of our predictions lost to Wanda. So if it helps.
But honestly, but then while we were going, I totally thought we were gonna like land on Nat. I totally thought you were on the same page with me about Nat being like this super like badass. Like,
here's my question: would Nat have beat Wanda if you?
I'm just saying that would have been tough, but I think
say we
I would have made us. Okay.
Would she have beat Tony?
Yes, 100%. 100% she's beating Tony in my eyes.
I would have gone Tony and we would have coined. Let's see what would have happened if Nat made the finals.
And we coin flip between Nat and Tony?
Mm-hmm. Tails. So it would have been, what was Tony's? Tony was a 9, Nat was a 4. Yeah, Tony would have won. So,
okay.
So yeah, there you go. But again,
I feel good about Wanda winning though.
Yeah.
She deserves it.
I guess, yeah, your love for Nat was the most surprising thing because I know there are so many strong female characters and a lot of them get to stand out more to me than Black Widow. I just feel like they underutilize her sometimes.
They didn't know what to do with women at all in the beginning of the MCU. Right. So, of course.
But like I always thought like Wanda, Captain Marvel, even Nebula, like Valkyrie, those ones going far didn't surprise me because, they're great picks and they're great women characters. But like some early cuts I was surprised by. I was surprised that what was I surprised by? Nick Fury didn't make it around. He was out in the first round. That was the one I was talking about, the first coin flip we had, where he lost to Okoye. I was honestly a little bit surprised that T'Challa didn't make it more than one round. And he lost to Valkyrie. I was surprised Drax didn't, but again, he was up against Wanda. So it's like, I was surprised that Steve Rogers again didn't make it another round, but again, Wanda. So
Wanda.
I was honestly surprised that Sam Wilson wasn't more of a competitor against like Captain Marvel when that face-off happened, but that's how it happens. Otherwise, the bracket pretty good. Again, Ant-Man was out in the first round because he went up against Tony Stark. Like I think if we were to redo this bracket with different placements, we could see like an Ant-Man creep up until the final 8, or like a Doctor Strange even, going further, but with the way the bracket was stacked up, that's how it went. That was fun. I had fun with that.
I had a lot of fun, Dill. It went in a complete different direction than I thought we were going to go. And honestly, I didn't hate it. So
yeah, well, the thing was, you could have fought for Cap. I was giving you all the coin flip opportunity in the world, but you went with Wanda. So.
No, I know. Yeah. I made my bet. I'm going to lie in it.
But we are very happy with Wanda as our victor. We might want to do this in like 2 more years when Eternals has come out and Shang-Chi is out and what else is coming? My brain's fried. I
Doctor
just spent
Strange 2,
yeah, like
Spider-Man
we
3.
might put Tommy and Billy in there. Yeah, we could do another bracket sometime.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get rid of Goose or something, or Stanley. Maybe won't make the cut this time, but that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Kelsey, where can they find you before we tease next week's episode?
Oh, you can find me on Instagram at Kelsey A. Kilpatrick. You can find me on TikTok, KOZ13, or you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Cause Productions.
Great. And you can find me at Dylan_Randazzo at Twitter, Dylan Randazzo 417 at TikTok, and the Dill Pickle Movie Network here on YouTube. If you're listening to us, thank you. Leave a review. Tell your friends. Give us 5 stars if you're on Apple. And come join us on YouTube because we love the views there. We love the subscriptions, the likes. If you're watching this and you're not liked or subscribed, please do it. It only helps grow the channel. And then you can see more crazy stuff like this. Next week, we're bringing you a whole new side of Marvel. We're not in the MCU anymore. Not for the next few weeks. That's right. We are going to the X-Men-U. X-Men-U, XMU. I don't know. I just made that up.
X-Emu.
X-Emu. Is that an animal? I don't even know.
Yeah, it is. It's like a bird.
So we are talking the next 5 episodes, right? Yeah,
Yes.
next 5 episodes will be X-Men related. So we will be doing the original X-Men trilogy, then we will be doing the new X-Men trilogy, then the Wolverine movies, the Deadpool movies, and then the 2 movies that Fox basically said adieu to X-Men with. So next week we will be doing the original trilogy, which is X-Men X2 United, right? X-Men 2 United, is that the name of it?
I just call it X2.
X2, and then X-Men The Last Stand.
Yeah.
So those are our 3 movies we will be talking about next week. We're just going to kind of talk about them, what our thoughts. I have not seen all of them. I had a weird childhood where if it was in my DVD collection, I watched it. If it wasn't, I didn't. And we only had one of the 3, and it was the third one. It was the third one. So
interesting.
I've seen the third one, but I haven't seen the first 2. So it'll be interesting for me to go through it. I've seen scenes of the second one because we fought it on Film Off, me and Crosby. So I have seen parts of the second one, but I've not seen the first and second one in their entirety. So I'm excited for it. So yeah, we're doing X-Men next week for the next 5 weeks. If you like X-Men, come
the X-May series, if you will.
X-May, that's right. X-Men in May, X-May, until we get to June and we're still doing X-Men, but then we'll just call it X-June. Like X2, no. Yeah, because 5 weeks, is that going to take us into June? We'll look afterwards. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Thank you. Let us know down below what you would have made the winner of the bracket. Should it be Wanda? Should it be Tony? Should it be Bucky? Should it be Groot? Should it be Nat? Should it be Cap? Thor? Who is it? Let us know. See you next time.